Well, welcome guys to another video. We've got to change that music, that camping music at the start. Welcome to day 2 of the Secrets of the Obscure playthrough. It's funny, yesterday was a fairly long episode, and yeah, all we really did was the intro instance. So we really are at the start of the X-Pack here. That said, we've dealt with already a lot of the really big and cool lore and sort of exciting things that there are to run through. I just want to say thank you to all the people who left comments on there, who tuned in yesterday, and with the guild as well. You know, I mentioned at the start of the video, let's jump on in, that if you want to play the expansion with the guild, you can send me a mail. I got a bunch of them, so yeah, welcome to everybody who wanted to join. And that offer still stands. Anybody who wants to join the guild can do so. I think the links in the description are kind of messed up, and I know I keep talking about them. But basically, I have YouTube has memory for like how a description works for standard videos and then live things, and they're different. And I might not have updated these live ones just yet, particularly the Discord link. But we'll see. Anyway, yeah. So hi guys, we're starting later in the day today. I got up very late today. I was up very late yesterday, very busy day yesterday. And so anyway, well, kind of, I don't know. I also managed to get some good time in Guild Wars pretty much yesterday. So, yeah, let's just continue along, and we'll see where we end up. I'm in the Black Citadel here because I was getting provisioner tokens. I have noticed in the expansion there are a lot of provisioner token vendors. And one of the things that's happening here, is we're kind of waiting for our next long-term goal. That's obsidian armor. And if you guys look at, oh Christ, where is it? Is it under general? I can't remember where it is. Somewhere there's like a legendary oh no, it must be collections, surely. Collections, legendary armor. There are updates here, as you can see, and there's a bunch of new things to get, preparing for the obsidian armor. And I'm pretty sure if they've put provisioner tokens in the new maps, the provisioner tokens are going to be a part of the legendary armor. So yeah, I'm just trying to like stockpile them a little bit. That might be something you guys want to do if you're, you know, plan on playing the game a lot. You never know, when that comes out, it might look really good and you'll regret not sort of making a little bit of progress while you can. And ArenaNet did explicitly say in the expansion that you could do so. Yeah, so yesterday, I beat the expansion. I've now beaten it. A lot of people were asking yesterday, oh, is it... Yeah, I noticed in the comments and things afterwards and on Discord, people were saying, oh, is it blind or is it not? I didn't really know how it would line up in the end. Essentially, this isn't going to be a blind playthrough now. Yesterday, I hadn't beaten it, so I was speculating about the future. I didn't really know where the story would go. Now I have. However, with that said, let's get over to the map. Now, I don't have a portal scroll, so I can't save money, I guess, with a... Look, this is the extent of our exploration. That said, even though I've beaten the main story, a huge chunk of this expansion's lore and world building and the most captivating stuff is in missable things. And I'm not critiquing the game here at the moment, actually. I'm just making the point that we actually could still have a ton of information I don't know, and a ton of the really fun things about the expansion are yet to be seen. There's also the fact that End of Dragons had those like side quests at the end, which were really good and had, you know, voice acting and so on. I haven't played any of those either, so you know, who knows what else I might have missed there. But as far as like the main story is concerned, I did do a playthrough of it. You guys might remember they had that quote before this all came out, where they said that it was a bit Dark Souls-y. Did they say it was a bit Dark Souls-y? I don't know. Or did they say it was like a FromSoft kind of game? But I kind of see what they mean by that in terms of... I mean, it's not at all. It's really not, as far as I can tell. But in terms of there's a lot of stuff in the environment you can press F on and get a little bit of detail, but I don't know, I don't think it's quite the same vibe. So anyway, so there is lots to see, lots to learn, lots you guys can teach me. I've been in the spoiler channel, Spoilers of the Obscure, and reading some interesting things. I've found some documents that have really blown my mind and made me very excited. I will restate, look, if there's any one thing I said out of the 3 hours yesterday, if there's any one thing, it was the comment that it really feels like ArenaNet know the lore and have settled on like a timeline and a history, and they know what they want to expand on, and they're juggling all the balls. Do you remember when I was playing FF14? I was constantly talking about how impressive that was. That's how Secrets of the Obscure feels, okay? It feels like they've really settled down on a timeline, that the lore is like all there. And it's very, very, very exciting to me for that reason. Also, by the way, the new waypoint of the X-Pack. I say the new waypoint. There's actually 2. The other one is a real favourite of mine. I'm very excited about. Oh, there's a lot of critique and review I want to do at the moment. The other one we'll get to a bit later, and I suspect will be used in abundance in the new map that comes in 3 months. They got like this orb thing here. Obviously, I'm going to want to talk about the blue orb, but it's no relevance, I think. And this appears everywhere, really, in this X-Pack. So I guess it's just one of the vibes, the aesthetics of how these guys power their stuff. But there you go. Okay, so we're back. Now, what happened in the previous part? We're on part 3, apparently. This ends, by the way, at part 9. And we are starting part 3 here. I guess we'll talk about length and stuff later. Why would I go into that early? Let's read this. Prologue, Uncertain Times. This is what we saw last time, if you missed it, maybe. Timey in one of her more formal letters asked me to travel to the Applied Development Lab to check in on a dire situation. Given that I'm not especially busy, I'm on my way. I was ambushed in the refuge of my own home laboratory. Timey, or someone pretending to be her, sent an urgent mail beckoning me to the Applied Development Lab and my personal oasis of thought and reflection. I should have suspected something was amiss when she claimed there was a very important development with no additional context. Timey, like all Asura, will brag about the smallest accomplishments. The lack of significant boasting made my ears perk up. But the urgency could not be ignored, so I ventured back to my refuge. Shortly after my arrival, this mysterious Timey was nowhere to be found. A reporter from Kaineng named Mi Ray is now revealed as the imposter, sprung from the shadows and ambushed me on the spot. She immediately launched an interview, but the whole thing was such a blur. She asked several very pointed questions about events that took place in Cantha, and perhaps against my better judgment, I answered as directly as I could. I got the sense that she was less interested in the truth and that she was just looking for something salacious. Thank goodness Timey, the real one, just happened to send a message the moment the things began to turn sour, allowing me to exit the encounter before things really went awry. Mi Ray says she got everything that she needed, and we'll see how that turns out. So that was the interview. Timey never ceases to amaze me with her technological prowess, from the biggest Elder Dragon discoveries to the smallest advancements in golem engineering. Why can I not read right now? My eyes are all blurry and stuff. Especially now that she and June spend most of their days together, locked away in the Junelai labs. Oh, by the way, okay, in the previous part, you know, there was that line that kind of suggested Timey was still working on the Jade Crisis, and I said, oh, that's amazing, look, it's not gone away, this kind of actually retroactively helps that previous patch and all that kind of stuff. And then I sort of looked at it closer, and I thought, oh, maybe this is written in the sense that it's already over. Okay, well, now having beaten the story, and this isn't a big spoiler or anything, it's just something that happens in passing, I think it is clear the Jade Crisis is still going on. So all those compliments I gave, I do want to stick with. I think that's, and we're even reading it here, you see. They're working away there. This time she surprised me with a comms answering system that enables our friends to leave verbal messages if the recipient is unavailable. This time, the times we live in. She encouraged me to test out the device by calling some of our mutual friends. Now that I've played it, it's kind of weird, this little bit of the story. It's like, I don't know where they're going with this. It looks like the rest of Dragon's Watch got the memo. Everyone seemed to have an answering message in place, except Bram. Oh, I don't remember, though. Could we just not ring Bram? We couldn't even ring him, could we? Yeah, I was the last to be notified. I can't help feeling a bit like a rudderless ship these days. Since the Elder Dragon affair, Cantha, and then the mines, well, everyone's recovering from a world-ending calamity by settling back into life. Everyone's taking a breather, but I haven't stopped running. You know, if the storytelling was really sophisticated and really had a lot of room to breathe, they could do some cool stuff about the commander here. I was finally able to get and it's funny, I really like this idea of an MMO that gets to dive into this sort of thing. Because it's kind of like, you know, there's a way they can hold a mirror up to the industry itself and the product itself too, because I think a really well structured, and this is a thing that Guild Wars fails on mechanically. Hopefully this isn't too rambly for people. But I think a really well-structured MMO, right? It has incredibly good core systems, right? It has great progression baked into core. So for this game, I guess that's stuff like fractals, right? Ostensibly. But, you know, when you play other MMOs and you realise, like, the crafting and the gathering and the slight rat race that they put you on with a gear grind each time, all these things, you know, reputation tracks and all those kinds of things. You have a really strong core, and this is like just the general stuff that people do. Or there's like really strong RPG communities and stuff. And then an expansion comes out, which is a calamity, and then you go off and do the story, and then you return to your normal life. And then there's a calamity, and you return to your normal life. And then there's a calamity, and you return to your normal life. This is actually a way of structuring MMOs. Guild Wars has always kind of felt like this big circle in the middle. And this is a result of a lot of their philosophies about, you know, freedom of access to things and, you know, the moving away from the rat race and stuff. Guild Wars kind of doesn't have this big circle. So what the commander's kind of been living through is, you know, big circle after big circle after big circle after big circle. And now we're at the point where we're going back to our life and it's kind of empty. And you see how the story almost like parallels what the mechanics of this game became. And they could have, I mean, you see how there's some really cool potential there, but, you know, whatever. Anyway, that's a very rambling thought I've just had. Okay, so anyway, I haven't stopped running, apparently. I don't know what we've been doing. I think a lot of people did stop running. They stopped logging in, but, you know. I was finally able to get a hold of Ivan, who told me about some strange events transpiring in the quiet hamlet of Garenhoff, where that weird wizard's tower has been looming in the sky since forever, it seems. Rama and Gorik's Brim and Scarab Detective Agency was too busy to handle the case, which was pretty far outside their area of operation, so they offered it to me. Oh, I like this detail. Because when I was watching that cutscene or getting that dialogue, I was kind of thinking to myself, it's weird that Ivan's giving me this info when he's all the way down in Cantha. But actually, this little detail here spins that into something that makes sense. That's why he's not handling it himself, you know, and he's just giving it to us. It's because he's got a network of contacts. It just so happens that I'm between crises right now, so perhaps doing something a little bit more hands-on would feel a bit cathartic. ... Scratch any note about catharsis. A massive floating tower doesn't up and disappear after generations without reason. The folk of Garenhoff, at least, the ones who didn't attack me for asking them questions, fear what the wizard's tower's disappearance means for their town. I don't blame them, but I have no answers to quiet their fears. I can feel the unease in my gut that manifests whenever we learn of another catastrophe. But while I fear for Garenhoff, I'm a little excited too. That's not unhealthy, is it? It's interesting they talk a lot about the commander's emotions here, because when we get into the realm of dreams... We know that that's what it's called, right, at this point? When we get into the spooky realm, that's exactly what the creature said, right? They used the phrase a drop of joy or whatever, right? And it's funny, guys, you know, I think the whole, like, emotion is magic stuff from the Giala Delve patch didn't go down with a lot of the circles that I'm in and a lot of the discussions that I read. People really didn't like that. They found it very corny and very odd and very weird. But, you know, they are using that for this expansion, you know, where the things you think and feel and how you act really, you know, really does determine a lot about the kind of sway that these otherworldly creatures might have over you. So it's cool to see ArenaNet writing about it a lot here. How the commander feels. Following a few leads in Garenhoff, I learned that a group of sketchy individuals, and we now know that these guys probably weren't sketchy. You know, they're the Astral Ward, and they're heroes. They're just heroes we're not familiar with. We're snooping around the town following the disappearance, headed northwest, apparently. It's not much of a lead, but it's all I got. I'm off to follow the trail. I was able to track them to a camp in Cornucopia Fields. I tried a more direct approach, but was turned away by a woman, a lawn huntress, and this is the lady Arena, you guys said in chat. Her stern glare made one thing very clear: I wasn't welcome. The more discreet route it is, I'll wait until dark. I waited until midnight at an abandoned lookout tower nearby before making my way toward the camp. This thing with the tower is quite a nice little added detail. They didn't have to do that. They could have just had an instance entrance right there, you know. But they have the little thing where we go to the tower. Before I could get close, my core Tyria would do that a lot, you know. It would have a time jump, but it would just dump the instance portal right on top of you. Before I could get close, my attention was pulled to a group of farmers who were fleeing some truly horrific creatures. I haven't seen anything like them before. They reminded me of Chark or the Oni in Cantha, but something about these beasts gave me pause. That's an interesting comparison, Chark or Oni. And certainly we will see that they're a bit like Chark. I haven't actually read any like bonus dialogue or anything or lore yet talking about the Chark, But, oh my god, guys, the stuff that this expansion goes into, like, I feel like every single topic is covered. Like, everything is in this expansion. Everything. And there are enemies that are very much like Chuck. So the defining thing about Chuck is they're a little bit like Aurene. They can eat magic, right? And filter it. Isn't the point they could even filter it to an extent as well? And that's probably a topic that deserved to be covered in the Aurene arc, but hey. So, you know, the similarity here is the demons are hungry for this power as well. Something about the beast gave me pause. After dispatching the creature, it was easy to connect their abrupt arrival with this camp of equally mysterious hunters. I exercised caution in my approach, and after using the shadows to my advantage, as well as some well-placed bushes, I eavesdropped on them to gather information. They call themselves the Astral Ward. This is funny, actually. This beat here, where we see a monster run off, farmers run away from a creature. Did that happen? Why don't I remember that? Did the instance start with a fight? I thought it ended with a fight. Maybe it started with one as well. Okay, these guys call themselves the Astral Ward, and the grouchy Norn's name is Arena. She must have been their leader. Then the Norn blew a great horn that rallied the group to attention, and the hunt was on. I followed them as they marched out of the camp, but watched in horror as a giant rift formed in the air. Fixed at the center was a massive serpentine eye. That's a cool detail. Serpentine. Okay, I've already been talking a lot, even just in episode 1, about the Massart, about the Seers, about the Dwarves. I mentioned the Jotun in passing. You know, these are all the ancient races that fought against the previous Elder Dragon Rising, right? And I'm here to say that's a big thing in this expansion. But, so far as I have seen, we haven't seen any influence of Forgotten in this expansion. And I know that's kind of like a spoiler by negation or whatever, you know? I've now removed something from the table from you. But I haven't really, because I think there's a lot of hints that there's a Forgotten influence going on in this story. I think there's either an allied or an enemy one. And here, they're actually referring to the eye as Serpentine, which is very weird to me. When I see those eyes of Sauron, the portals, I didn't really think Serpent, but if the devs are writing it here, I think I'm going to pay attention to that. I wonder if there's a Forgotten... Guys, what you got to remember about the Forgotten is they were multi-planar, right? That's not a term that Guild Wars has ever used. But, you know, we found them in the Realm of Torment. They were running Abaddon's prison. They came at... well, I can't quite remember how it's written, but they were in cahoots with the human gods and, like, tended to this world with the human gods and were, like, their shepherds. I think and you're going to read a lot of cynicism about the human gods in this expansion. A huge amount of cynicism. They do big stuff, okay? Where we are, all right... The Beacon of Hope and all this kind of... Or Beacon of the Ages, sorry, this is called. This shit is big stuff. This is like old stuff, okay? How the timelines match up. And you're going to read a lot of cynicism about the gods. Here's what I'm trying to get to. I think the studio is kind of painting the gods more antagonistic. And when you do that and you read the lore and you realize that the Forgotten were kind of allied with them and helping them out a lot, they might be making the Forgotten antagonistic too. I think there might be a Forgotten influence behind this weird realm that we were in episode 1. I'm probably speculating way too deeply here for people who are blind and don't know what's going on. So just remember this, okay? Forgotten. Let's bookmark that and put it to the side. I followed them as they marched out the camp, but watching horrors of the Serpentine Eye, vile, fleshy creatures spilled out and attacked. The Astral Ward were now the prey. Many were killed or forced to flee. Those who weren't met with claws and fangs were pulled straight into that rift. Then, an even larger beast emerged, hungry to finish off the hunters. I leapt into the fray and challenged the creature, but I was pulled straight into the rift myself. Yeah, I missed that detail of people getting sucked into the rift, but that explains the bodies we found. Okay, so that's commanded with a cause. Hell breaks loose. When I logged in on day 1 and I, opened my friends list, it was the most active my friends list has been for years and years and years and years, and nearly everyone was in Hell's Break Loose. Collecting my bearings in that place was like fishing a clear marble out of a canteen full of water. Wow, they love their their imagery here, don't they? My thoughts were cloudy, my brain ached. Breathing the air burned my lungs. I could hear Arena in the distance, rallying the other Astral Ward who were pulled into this mysterious realm. That was the blood-curdling scream. As I navigated the unfamiliarity of the threatening space, of that threatening space, I was assaulted by a booming voice. Before long, I stood before an enormous, vile monster. He circled me for a short while. Oh, okay, what he actually did was he just walked into us. If they had found a way to code it that he circles us, that would have been amazing. Actually, he kind of does move around our flank a bit, doesn't he? Or maybe he did. But I was imagining, you know, like the dynamic pathing, but also him circling us. Clearly playing with his presumed food, he was curious about my arrival, noting that I had travelled from Tyria to get to wherever this place is. As the great beast danced around me, clearly unafraid, another voice prickled my ears. She called the thick-winged demon Cerus. I'm not especially fond of this Cerus. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not especially fond of this other voice either. I don't like to trust mysterious voices of unknown origin, especially after the events of Giala Delve and the fucking Icebrood Saga. Hello? Oh, that would have been really good if they'd got that in there. You know, I can forgive, like, rehashes and things that feel a bit too similar if, in universe, there's a moment to draw that point of comparison, and then it's like, you know, it releases all the tension for me. I know when to admit defeat. Dying in that bloodied hall by Cerus's hands and meat wings was not an option. I ducked behind rubble and debris to escape my pursuer. This could have been a really cool part of the instance. It felt very basic though, didn't it, in the end? But before I could ponder my impending death, somehow a comms call broke through the haze and chaos. It sounded like Timey, but I couldn't quite tell. Then another portal opened just ahead of me, and I dove right through it to escape that tragic hellhole. When I emerged in Tyria, I was on the ground. Inside, I thought two figures stood before me, watching. Zodja, who I hadn't seen in years, and him, a Masart. Mabon. My blood felt cold. That's Witten, very weirdly. Shouldn't it be my blood ran cold? I guess both work. Lazarus's voice boomed through my head. Another Masart? Here in Tyria? My instinct was to fight, or flee, maybe. But Zodja and another Norn named Frode talked me down. This is quite interesting how this... It paints a very different picture of these scenes,
Rage,
you know.
at maximum.
But Zodja and another Norn named Frode talked me down. They informed me that this Mabon is an ally. And somehow, I feel like everything I know to be true is about to be flipped over. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about Mabon's name for a second here. This was another little rant that I kind of wanted to put into the last part. Something stupid, something overly speculative that I got, like, latched onto on my first playthrough. So there's another bit of lore, right? Like, really old fucking lore. Like, some of the first lore that they ever wrote about this setting, okay? Lore from the Guild Wars 1 Prophecies manuscript. Lore that you could have got before even booting the game on launch day, you know, just after the servers went up. That kind of old lore. A lot of which these days, you know, has been contradicted in minor ways. Actually, I think one of the things that Guild Wars has always been very good at is it doesn't contradict itself often. Anyway, when they're talking about the mists, they talk about this guy called Lord Odrin, who was like this plane walker, right? What he would do is he would create portals to the mists, and he would go in and wander around and explore an adventure, and then he'd come back, and then he'd make a portal somewhere else, and he'd go in, and he'd hide these portals in special places. And what this lore really was doing was it was justifying why there was an entrance to the underworld at the Tomb of the Primeval Kings, which is where a bunch of the PvP happened right on launch. So the lore was really just written to justify the PvP taking place in the mist. It doesn't matter, okay? But what they did in the lore was they introduced this guy, Lord Odrin. He wasn't a character you met in the first game. He's this historical figure, long since dead. And the way he died was he kept wandering around in the mists, and he got, like, casual about it and too relaxed. And eventually, the denizens of the mists, you know, the undead of the underworld or whatever, they didn't like him doing this, and they, like, ganked him. You know, they shanked him and killed him out there for his trespasses, and that's it, and he's gone. So we never meet Lord Odrin, but he's this interesting figure, this first Mistwalker, this guy who created these portals. And so anyway, when I started this expansion, I was like, oh, we've gone to another realm. What kind of lore could they tap in these other planes and these other dimensions? And I was thinking about Lord Odrin right when I met Mabon. And I was thinking, Odrin, Mabon? Is this like a Kunavang, Navang type thing? You know, a Voldemort, I am Tom Marvolo type thing? I was like, is there some way they can fit that? Because the Navan thing was so good in End of Dragons, and I missed it completely. And End of Dragons is so good on replay. I was like, oh man, was Lord Odrin a Masart and he just faked his own death? Is this... And I spent way too much time thinking about it. So yeah, just a little thought for you guys. I just mentioned a second ago, everything is touched. I guess I don't recall reading anything about Lord Odrin in this expansion. So yeah, Lazarus' voice boomed in my head. Once the tunnel vision faded, I could hear the crackling of nearby fires and shouting. Wherever I landed, the fight was just outside. Mabon departed to search for the other wizards, stirring an ever-brewing pot of questions in my mind. As Odra and Frode guided me forwards, there was a fight to be had before we could catch up. As we fought our way upstairs, we encountered even more of those creatures. Frode called them the Cryptis, a faction of demons from a place called Naos, which seems to be another name for the demon realm. Now, they say the demon realm here. The impression I get from the lore here, actually, is it's like I was saying yesterday, that it's kind of this flexible thing. Realms can come into existence if beings will them to, or at least if these demons will them to. It sort of feels like a realm they created. Naos. Naos is a very cool name. Okay, so on Discord, people have been geeking the fuck out about, like, the Greek names. Like, a lot of this stuff is Greek. I do not know ancient Greek mythology, and I don't know ancient Greek, you know, characters and figureheads and so on very well at all. But, you know, like Deimos. Deimos was the god of... Oh, God, I can't remember. From Bastion of the Penitent, but that was Greek, and they kind of set a standard there, I suppose. You know, technically also it's one of the moons of Mars, I think. Deimos and Phobos, I think, are two moons of Mars. Am I right about that? Or are we dealing with a different planet there? Anyway, but, you know, they all derive from the Greek. Fear and terror, there you go, Deimos and Phobos, is that it? So anyway, we're going to see a lot of these kind of cool names. I don't know what Naos means. If anyone in the live chat wants to translate that stuff, then that would be very cool. Because a cool thing to think about here, guys, is one of the reasons I like doing these on YouTube. You know, people get saying to me, why aren't you doing Twitch drops or whatever? You know, first, I really don't care about that kind of stuff. But second, these messages will be here forever. People just casually watching, they get to see your live chat as it goes. And if you guys add those extra details, I mean, when I watch videos like this, VODs like this, I really like it. So if anyone has cool translations of stuff like that, you can drop them in, because I haven't done my prep on that. I probably will in the upcoming parts, now that I think about it. That's probably a good idea, if I can commit to memory. All right, even more rifts emerge. Zodra handed me a peculiar device that she called the Heart of the Obscure, and this is the device here, just for people, since I can whack it out at any point. She gave us this thing. Oh, it went away really quick. And don't worry about all that rushing. We'll deal with that in a second. She gave me a peculiar device. Frode called these... oh, wait. I've lost my place completely here. She told me it had the ability to seal rifts. I picked it up without hesitation, and there weren't any other options. We pushed forward until we emerged from the fortress. Garenhoff, no, Ilona, fragments of places littered the horizon before me, lifting into the sky. Another unfamiliar voice broke my concentration. A living, breathing, not made of stone, dwarf named Lahir, who I would soon learn was another of these wizards, shouted aid from above. I took a sky scale and made my way up. Rejoined by Mabon. See, this is funny. I took a sky scale and made my way up. If this commander never had a sky scale yet, then there's actually a lot to write about there. We just became a dragon rider, you know. Rejoined by Mabon, we were able to bash the rest of the Cryptis threats. In a moment of reprieve, all attention was turned straight to me, the stranger. With a great deal of patience, Mabon attempted to guide me through their journey to date. This is the Astral Ward. They protect the Wizard's Court. Oh, and there are demons. A lot of demons. There you go. And that's true, there are a lot of demons. There's actually very good enemy variety in this, because the demon faction's pretty well fleshed out. And also there's a lot of, you know, reusing previous stuff. Oh my god. I don't have coffee today, but let's imagine this is coffee. I have hot chocolate. I bought some, like, low-calorie hot chocolate at the supermarket, thinking, oh, this probably isn't going to taste very good, but I'll tell you guys. I've had way too much of it the past few days. I didn't realise as well, if you do instant hot chocolate these days, they have, like, a sweetener in it already and, like, whitener in it. You don't need to add sugar or milk or anything. You just put the boiling water in. Which is not how I remember hot chocolate growing up. Okay, so... oh, God, that was a proper old man anecdote there, isn't it? That's... How was the world different when I was young? I'm not that old. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna go to the command center. Now, I'm all about this expansion in a lot of ways. This bit we're about to play, I'm not really that keen on. I don't think was delivered that well. Because I'm still kind of confused, and I don't even know whether I should be confused at this point. Already, we've had a crap ton to learn and digest, and, well, it's going to carry on here. There's an adventure, by the way. I've never done this adventure. I'm looking forward to trying it, but we'll deal with that later, I think. Also, you guys have to tell me if the volume's okay. I did try to turn it up more last night, but it might need even more juice. The game audio, I mean. So just let me know. We obviously don't want that to be too crappy. So here's Mabon, and he floats around.
To the north. We're currently trying to cut a path.
I love how we do get just random Tengu and things here. And you can actually speak to him. He says, and I believe he's perfectly at walk speed, which is nice. There's much to be done, but I'll assist as much as I'm able. Now, how can I help? Who built the beacons? So remember, the beacons are the wizard's towers. Okay, the Wizard's Folly Tower, the one at Garenhoff, and we hear that there's actually others as well. So who built these?
The Wizard's Court, Iskarin mainly, predates nearly everything else in Tyria, and the beacons are older still. Perhaps only he knows their origin, and perhaps not even him. But they serve their purpose well, regardless.
So these things are very old. Okay, listen, if you guys are casual lore enthusiasts and you really want to vibe with this, I'm going to give you a very clear sense of the timeline. Okay, there's today and everything that we've played in the game, which I'm assuming you're familiar with. 260 years ago is Guild Wars 1. 1,000 years before that is when the humans arrived, essentially. I mean, we can get more precise, but 1,000 years before that is when the humans arrived, the gods arrived, they were living in awe. And, okay, no, actually, 1,000 years ago is when the gods left, okay? When the gods found the Bloodstone, and they split it up, and it was chaos, and then they left. They were like, fuck it, we're out, okay? And they had their war with Abaddon, they blew a bunch of stuff up. It wasn't long before that the gods actually got here, and they had built Ur, they had lived in Ur, in the city of Ara, and they had brought the humans, and they collaborated with the Forgotten. Okay, so that's all around 1,000 years ago. So, kind of recent history. 1,000 years, it's not that crazy. 10,000 years ago, so this is way before humans, way before gods were ever here, way before any of that stuff. 10,000 years ago, that's when this guy's race was actively at war with the Seers, and it was the previous Elder Dragon Rising. Somewhere, well, between 10,000 to the 1,000 space, somewhere in there, okay? So 10,000 years ago was the last time Zaitan and co were awake, and they last went to sleep. And last time those dragons were awake, they wiped out huge population centers, devastated the world, consumed shit tons of the magic. The different races did different things to try to protect themselves. Like the Seers built the Bloodstones and learned about Shadow Stones, and I guess made some of those as well. But they made the Bloodstones to hide the magic from the Elder Dragons, successfully so. And then years later, after the dragons were asleep, the gods found it and split it open. So you can imagine why the Seers wouldn't really like the gods very much, because the Seers built this Bloodstone and then the gods just came and cracked it open. But yes, so that's all 10,000 years ago. So when we hit, and we've never really had much history before that. This is what I was trying to get at in yesterday's part. Like, they haven't really expanded much. So when he says these things are really fucking old, and, you know, Isgaren the Seer might have built them, or they might even predate him, we're dealing with an area of the game's history and the world's history that I'm really excited about, and the devs never seem to give a fuck about. But this expansion, they do seem to give a fuck about. We're dealing with the pre-10K here. We're dealing with a lot more of that subject material. So, yeah, and they leave it a little bit open as to who might have built the original ones. What else did he say there? Is there anything else for me to dig into? NPC chat. So, you see how he says perhaps only Isgaren knows these things' origin, and perhaps not even him? You're going to find out Isgaren plays it very close to his chest with a lot of information. I actually really like the character. So they say that it predates nearly everything else in Tyria. Presumably not the Elder Dragons that were here when it was made, you know, as we found out from those Suwon conversations at the end of EOD, but we're dealing with old stuff. you know, and when we start dealing with this timeline, we get some really tantalizing and interesting things, like, will they deal with what the Char were up to during that time? Will they deal with what the Asura were doing, if they were around beneath the surface? What about the Norn? Did they even exist, or was it just Coden? Yeah, do you get what I mean? Like, so anyway, do you ever regret joining the Wizards, Mabon? He's been here for ages, then.
No, I don't. Our work is important, and I've been able to do a lot of good. It's where I belong. My purpose. No one lives to my age without accumulating a long list of mistakes. Before I came here, I was callous and violent. The truth is, joining the Ward might be the only good decision I ever made.
So, he's a fascinating character, isn't he, really? Because you got to remember, he is a Massart. And the Massart have historically been bad guys. I want to talk a little bit about that, though. Because I think ArenaNet have written the Massart in this expansion a little bit differently to how I was expecting them to. For me, okay, the Massart have been bad guys, but not lunatics, not violent necessarily. What they were self-interested. They were self-preservationists. You know, they had all this crazy strong magic, and clearly they'd been at a war with the Seers, which we really have very little detail on. This expansion will go into, by the way, which is great. But, you know, their big crime, as far as I can tell, with the previous Elder Dragon Rising, is while the Seers made the Bloodstones, and while everyone else looked for solutions, these guys just found a way to hid. They found a way to escape and go into the mists and run away, right? They were just trying to preserve themselves. In Guild Wars 1, when they're enemies, you know, they'd heard this prophecy written by Glint about the downfall of their race, and they were doing whatever they could to preserve their race. And they did horrible, fucked up things. They manipulated people. They murdered people. They're bad guys. But they weren't lunatics, you know, and they had, like, real motivations for what they were doing. They were doing anything at all costs to keep themselves alive, just as humans would in the real life if such a situation came up, you know. It's us or them. Right? And I kind of understand that mentality, and they're always very understandable for that. So I kind of don't like hearing Mabon do nothing but chat shit about other Massart and how terrible and shitty they were, because I kind of think, you know, I think he would have... I would like to have seen him be higher reasoning to that and take a bit of a grey picture with that, because that was always what was fun about the Massart to me. You know, you just want a generically evil faction. You look at the Crate, you look at something more mindless like the Titans or whatever. Titans get a little bit of a comment in here, by the way, too. Actually, there's some amazing stuff about the Titans in this. Oh, I got to keep going. This is going to get tedious if I just keep referencing things to come without actually getting to them. So anyway, they also do a bit of a big cop-out here. We'll see it in a minute, maybe even now. Yeah, how do you feel about the other Massart? So let's ask him. And I love that I can even click this.
In truth, I have few memories of my time with my brethren before joining the Astral Ward. A kindness I likely don't deserve. But I have watched events unfold. I've seen our story played out across Tyria. My people chose the wrong path, and when given chances to undo their damage, continued farther down that same road. If there are enough of us left, I hope someday they'll find a better future. But it's our own fault things are this way.
So, there's kind of a lot here. First of all, you can justify his snobby opinion about the other Massart because he forgot all of that. So, it works in character, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it doesn't make... If he doesn't remember much about them and he's just seen the facts of history, then maybe, yeah, he's entitled to feel that way. But I feel like just putting it out there, it probably would have been more captivating if he was a bit more lenient about them. For me, anyway, I don't know. But there's more cool stuff here. Alright, first, it's a bit of a cop-out, I think. You're going to give us a Massart character? You got to let us dig into his feelings about his people a bit more. You got to give us... Look, this is exactly what I like about this expansion, but here they cop out. I want to feel like they know cool, fun details about what really happened with the Massart back then. I want to feel like there's a story there. They can't get around to fully telling it, but there's a story. So if there is a story, if they've concepted a story, if there's something there, if it's a real world, if it's a place to imagine and be curious about, Mabon should give us a little something here. This shouldn't have been written, oh, he just forgot. I mean, that's a major cop-out. Oh, he just forgot everything about it. Like, it should be... I'll tell you that, like, this little thing that you haven't heard before, it hints at a bigger thing, but maybe we don't get another chance to ask later, you know? So, I don't know. I really respect that I get to click this button. They knew that we'd want to ask this. And I'm not saying you actually have to write a full story, but give me a little something. Suggest there was a big thing there. And I kind of feel like, you know, if you're going to go in and you're going to say one of the main characters of this expansion is going to be a Massart, you've got to be willing to talk a little bit about Massart society. All he does is reflect on what we already knew about Massart society, and it hasn't scratched that itch. Do you get what I mean? Which many places Secrets of the Obscure does do. Why do I keep wanting to say Shadow? All right, so anyway, and then the other thing I like about this, though, is that last line. He says, if there are enough of us left, I hope someday they'll find a better future. That's really good as well, because in Season 3, it felt like ArenaNet had forgotten that in the lore, there were a lot of extra Massart out there in the mists, or they could have been hiding anywhere. You know, when they were like, oh, Lazarus is the very last Massart, and we're going to do Livia suddenly out of nowhere to get a hellbent to kill the last one. You know, that whole closing door thing. It really felt like they wanted that to be the end of the Massart for good. But, you know, the lore has been written in such a way that there could be any number of them. There could be thriving societies out there in other planes, or even lingering around the Isles of Janthir. And what I really like about this here is by even just having Mabon as a character, straight away that implies they're happy to have more Massart around. And also, he's even talking here about if there are enough of us left. And there could be. They've creaked the door open on that one. Do you see? And that's really cool. I like that. That's an open door. This other thing where there's like, I don't really remember. I don't really know. Kind of feels like it closed it a bit. But yeah, really cool. And then finally, do you think these experiments were justified? Okay. These experiments being justified. Okay, so a second ago I mentioned I think that this expansion is a bit wonky with the storytelling. What experiments are we talking about? I believe what Liz is asking about is the experiments that resulted in all this chaos in this map. But the thing is, if you go back and rewatch yesterday's part, if you listen to everything I've said today, nothing really has properly sat down and explained what the fuck's going on here. So Liz now, if I click this, Liz is asking something we really don't know about. And that happens a lot at this little story step. It's like the devs think I should know more about these floating islands than I do already. So we'll just click it anyway, because I don't want to come back and try and find him as he floats around.
I do.
Does he regret them?
I didn't always, truth be told, but I've seen the good that's come of them. You'll have to understand that there are things we've prevented because of them that Tyria knows nothing about. Everything we do comes at a price. But if what we gain in return is the safety of our world, then we must pay that cost. Hopefully, someday, they will no longer be necessary. If we're lucky, maybe even someday soon.
So what's he talking about? What are these experiments? Why are these in the sky? We will get into that now, and that's what this next bit of the story is going to tell us. It's a little bit disjointed, so we'll do that. But I do like this story in principle because, you know, there's a question you can ask. You can say, okay, here's the Astral Ward. They've been in the sky the whole time, and we didn't know about them. First question is, well, why didn't we know about them? And the expansion lets you get to ask that a lot. The other question is, what are they doing? And the answer can be, well, they're protecting Tyria. But then you have to actually go for, how are they protecting Tyria? What are they doing? And so we're going to find out what they're actually doing now. Or at least a part of what they're doing. We obviously know the Astral Ward is, you know, hunting down these rifts and preventing incursions and things right now. Have the rifts always been there?
Welcome to the command center.
Hello. So the command center is a bit of like a hub area for the start. I don't use hub in the terms of like Arborstone. I just mean we'll zigzag back it in and out of here a few times. The door leads to the Astral Ward's beacon command center. Open the door and enter. There's probably some notes and things that I'm missing here, by the way. We'll deal with them as we go through.
Commander, over here.
Ah, they are taller than I thought.
So I really...
Commander, you know, one of our oldest members.
Oldest mortal members.
Wish I had time to give you a proper introduction to the Astral Ward, but things are dismal.
Remind me why we can't call for more help? I could have a fleet of airships here in a day.
The Astral Ward is a secret. That is Isgaren's preference, even in times of worry.
Isn't Iskarin compromised? Won't it be too late if you wait for his permission?
Maban is choosing to honor his will. We will do the same. Rian could really use your help in the Rift Hunters, one of our more hands-on divisions. They track down rifts before whatever horrors inevitably spill out of them. Just like the one that pulled you into Nyos. They're popping up all over Tyria. Innocent lives are at risk. Rian is waiting for you. He'll gear you up and give you whatever details you need.
While you help contain the threat, we've got Astral Ward searching for Dagda and Iskarin's whereabouts. As soon as we gather more intel, we'll call on you to help with the cleansing.
What exactly are we dealing with?
Dagda and Iskarin will need to be cleansed, so to say, of their cryptous possession before they can aid us. Dagda is our first target. We believe she's hiding nearby, probably attempting to cleanse herself of any unwanted guests. As soon as we can confirm her location, we'll call on you. Give me your thing. The one you use to talk to your friends from far away.
My comms device? Oh, sure.
So yeah, you can kind of think of the main jeopardy of this expansion. It's a rescue mission. Dagda, Isgaren, they've been compromised by the demons. We've lost them. We need them. We can't get back. So this is just one of the beacons which they've moved. There's a bigger place we've got to get to. Okay, so yeah. Here's Yuno. We heard about her before. Zodja talked about her. She recruited Zodja. This is the old lady Asura that I said I really liked.
I do not miss the ever-changing nature of technology. There. I've attuned your little device to pick up on arcane fluctuations. We'll be able to contact you anywhere. Even if you stumble into another rift.
Well, let's hope the latter doesn't happen anytime soon.
Yes, let's.
Yeah, it was pretty fucked up and scary in there. Man, there were 100 things running through my head there, but they've all fallen out like a sieve. I guess let's just move on here. So, yeah, we're going to be doing a little bit of rift hunting here at the start.
I was an esteemed professor in the College of Synergetics. To study the metaphysical is to study the inner workings of the flow itself. It's good work. But we're stubborn, our kind. Bureaucratic. It's all so stifling. Zojja and I had the same realization. Expecting satisfaction from that city is like expecting a Skrit to win the SNAF prize. So I went on a long sabbatical to explore the world beyond the stuffy labs and debate halls of Radasum. And then I found this big lump of bricks hiding away in Garenhoff. Maban noticed my curiosity. And here I am.
So
I still collect stipends from the Arcane Council. They think I'm in a jungle somewhere, gawking at plants. Bureaucracy.
That's really great. I don't know if she appears somewhere in the open world, like core Tyria, and she's in some random heart where they're studying plants or something. I think that would be amazing. But I get the sense that she left a long time before. Yeah, so we get a little bit more of this whole Zodja thing. Like I was talking before, like, does it really make sense that Zodja would just vanish in the way that she did? And I think that they justify it much better here. It's because she actually loses faith in the city, and that does track with the personal story. In the personal story, we're butting heads constantly with the Arcane Council and really struggling, and that folds into her motivation to go to the Lion's Arch meeting at level 30-40. Is it level 40 now? I can't remember how they reshuffled it. But they can actually go back and leverage that again. Just because we beat Zaitan, just because we beat Morgemoth, it doesn't mean that everything she learned about the city in those early steps goes away. And so that, I think, is actually a very, very good motivation. I'm happy to see they said that there. Also, by the way, you see, they were like, oh, they're taller than I thought. That kind of line comes up a lot. People keep remarking on the height of your character. I don't know where that comes from. I guess it's just fun, but yeah. Here, I swear on my Norn, I was told I was shorter than they expected. But yeah, okay, so we got the vow. Before we go off to learn about the situation with these rifts and learn how to hunt them down, there's a lot of bonus dialogue here, and this explains why this catastrophe is happening. Because if you think about it, the rifts are kind of a separate thing. Okay, there's rifts appearing in demon incursions, but then there's also, like, what? Vow of the Warden. They will protect the veil between Tyria and the mists. They will, and what's this? This veil between Tyria and the mists. Now, my understanding of it is that this is kind of... It's funny, I've been writing my own, like, fantasy story for a few years, and I have something very similar to this. I guess it's a pretty tropey thing. But I'm guessing that this is, like, some kind of magical shield that protects them from the mists, okay? They will protect the veil between... And I believe that it's what all these beacons are powering, basically. They will protect the veil between Tyria and the mist. They will guide the astral ward towards brilliance. They will be modest, and they will drink a chalice of water from the golden lake. They will be kind and powerful. They, by the will of Isgaren, will better this world. So, I don't really know what a warden is. Maybe you guys in chat can say. By the way, thank you very much for that €2 donation there. Brazilian watching, looking to see better. Thank you. I am trying to keep my own chat here, guys. Yeah, I don't really know exactly what a warden is. I guess it's just a prominent member of the wizard's court. So you've got the ward are doing, like, the grunt fight work. The courts are doing their experiments and protecting the world in ways we're about to learn. And Mabon just referenced. And maybe the warden sits above them. But still below Isgaren. Isgaren is the de facto leader. And then he has wardens just below him. It's like you got the Pope and then the Cardinals. And then we work our way down, right? Maybe something like that. Don't know why I picked that analogy. I'm sure many will do. They will be kind and powerful. They will, by the will of Isgaren, will better this world. We get this thing here as well by drinking a chalice of water from the Golden Lake. Again, I believe this is metaphorical, but we hear about this lake again. That lake metaphor was used before. They talked about the waters running still and you could see to the bottom. Is it an actual tangible thing? I don't know. And listen, I want to be clear again, though I've beaten the main story, there's probably a fuck ton of details I still don't know. And actually playing through this with you guys will get it much more solid in my head, which will be fun. So there you go, that's their vow. That's an exit. Okay. And now this character here, this is where we learn about these islands. And they kind of just bomb it all at you. See here, look, I'm Director Camillus, head of the ward's Fractal Research Division. I'm sure you have many questions about our work, and I'll try to answer the ones I can. And we can just ask, how have the fractals actually been useful? Which again suggests that Liz already knows something about fractals. It's like when we were talking to Mabon a second ago. There's a suggestion Liz already knows something. It's like they thought they put an explanation into the first instance about the chaos in the distance, but they didn't do that. However, when we leave this room in a second, we will get some information. So I think that the beats are just like off timing. The problem I have is I don't know if I can leave and come back in and get it in the right order. Should we risk it? I think I'm going to risk it. I'm going to risk it, and we'll read it on Wiki if this doesn't go well. See, when we leave, I think we should start getting dialogue. Hopefully before the green starburst. It's very risky if we have to go right up to the starburst. It's very risky. Oh, God. Let's see. The story will be better if this works. Okay, here's Rian.
Ah, Commander. Your eyes have seen so many places.
We fucked it up. It's gone.
Many beasts. I know a hunter when I see one. Apologies. Being in your presence may be more shocking for some than others. I am Rian of the Rift Hunters.
Frode and Yuno sent me to help. It sounds like we're working against the clock.
Well, your help comes with kind timing. Rifts have been appearing all over Tyria, but they're especially potent here. Thankfully, that device of yours, the Heart of the Obscure, has given us a new windfall. In your hands, a blessing. They found it in Waiting Sorrow's quarters just before we lost the tower. Don't know what she made it for, but the Heart's ability to open and seal rifts by following their astral frequency is impressive. I've not much more time with the Heart than you, but let me guide you. The Heart of the Obscure is capable of astonishing things. It can act as a conduit for your emotional energy, channeling it as a source of power. Now, hold the Heart aloft and focus your thoughts on the demonic rifts and your desire to hunt down these intruders.
Okay, so we get a new mastery skill. So you see, this is all still just dealing with rifts, not that shit. It, you know, slots in here nice and comfortably. We get the 1. And it says use the mastery skill, scan rifts to begin tracking the rifts.
I can see it. The magic in the air is flowing.
Incredible. What does it look like?
Hard to describe. A little frightening. Like the world itself is reaching toward something. You can't see it?
No. You and the heart are one in this moment. I've seen before what you do now, but I am a bystander. It might seem overwhelming, but don't be afraid. These are your own thoughts made manifest. Go on now. Why don't you see where it leads you?
So, the whole emotion connection in this story here is really weird to me. I mean, this is a MacGuffin that means our emotions become magic and they lead us to a rift. So, i.e., our emotions lead us to a rift where demons are waiting to feed on our emotions. I mean, it's weird, isn't it? I don't know whether they're going to expand on that or what. Whether this is just colour for what the Heart of the Obscure does. But let's be clear about this artifact, all right? There's another, you know, we've met Mabon, we've met Lahir, we've met a lot of these characters. Dagda's off screen, Isgaren's off screen. There's another off screen character here. This is one of the big mysteries of the X-Pack. So try to remember this one. Waiting Sorrow. Waiting Sorrow is a wizard of the court who made this. And they don't even know why she made it, or actually, I don't even know if Waiting Sorrow is a woman, or what is going on with it. They're just trying to figure it out, but it's very useful and it's very powerful. And Waiting Sorrow has been lost. They say just before we lost the tower. I don't know if Waiting Sorrow was working in this tower, the Beacon of Ages, or the Wizard's Tower in Garenhoff. Was Waiting Sorrow in there, or another one altogether? I don't know. That information is probably in the X-Pack. I just can't remember. If you guys want to fill me in on that. But yeah, so Waiting Sorrow. And Kerry thought, as I was playing it with her, that sounded like a Coden name. Which I think's very good. I think that sounds a lot like a Coden name. However, I've read a good deal of speculation online that it might be a forgotten name as well. Or it could be a Forgotten. And I already mentioned a bunch of reasons why the Forgotten are quite curious in this expansion. So who knows? You know, adding another of the ancient races that fought against the Elder Dragons before would be cool. But yeah, so Waiting Sorrow we haven't met and is somewhere. Now, I'm going to go and see if I can... We still haven't had the fucking dialogue that I wanted to get. There should be some voiced audio. Oh yeah, it's back. Okay, I guess this is just straight up broken, because I think that... Oh, we gotta go upstairs. I think speaking to this optional NPC will activate the voiced dialogue that I want. So, yeah. Alright, so now let's deal with these islands. Something about fractals, right? Head of the Fractal Research Division. And for such a huge thing, you'd think that she's a bigger character, but she's a very small character, actually. I'm sure you have many questions. Okay, so have the fractals actually been useful?
Extremely useful. I personally believe it is our most important area of research. For many problems, it is difficult to see the solutions in advance, but easy in hindsight, after it's too late to fix it. But the fractals allow us to learn from mistakes we didn't actually make. That knowledge is essential in preventing those mistakes we can't afford to make.
I love this. This is definitely meta commentary to me here. I mean, what game designer wouldn't... Oh, MMO, you know, any kind of long-term, you know, game that gets a lot of updates and has to deal with a rebelling, you know, angry community wouldn't have had this observation before, right? Oh, here we go. This is what I can't see. I needed to scroll down. For many problems, it's difficult to see the solutions in advance, but easy in hindsight after it's too late to fix it. I mean, if that's not MMO development, I don't know what it is. And you get all these wanker pundits like me that, you know, get to sit around with the luxury of time being on our side. You know, we get to say, this is a mistake. You know, when you look at the Wizard's Vault, this is stupid, this was... and, you know, we never have to anticipate. All we have to do is react. And that is the luxury of those... writing Reddit comments and forum comments and reviewing and so on. But you know, so look, I'll just try and spell this clear for you guys. They have a fractal division, and what these people do is they make not actually fractals. Read the dialogue very carefully in a second. They're not actually fractals as we know them. Fractals as we know them is Dessa's lab, and they're little islands of existence that coalesce and we explore, and there's potentially infinite of them. And, you know, there's the whole Dessa and Arc thing, okay? That's its own separate thing. That's what we call fractals. They're doing something similar, but it's not. They're not actually the same thing, okay? These aren't literal fractals from, you know, the portal in Lion's Arch or anything, okay? It's just their own project. And we're calling it fractals just as a point of comparison, all right? The word that the Wizards Court actually use is simulations, all right? They talk about them as simulations. So what the Wizards were doing is they were creating simulations of different events and, you know, environments from Tyria to see how they develop, you know, as time moves at super speed or whatever. And then they can see how it develops, and they can say, oh shit, this all goes to pot. We shouldn't do this. So we're going to intervene in real Tyria before this disaster happens. That's the idea. They're getting glimpses into other timelines that they make for themselves, like fractals. That was their project. They weren't making anything physically in the world, but that was their thing. They had like these little simulations, okay? And then Liz can ask, why did they have to have real people in them? Again, it feels like we're missing a bit of the story here. But yes, apparently the people in these simulations are real people, which is kind of crazy, considering these are being used to simulate potential disasters. So they're essentially throwing real people to the dogs here, which is totally fucked up and evil, and yet we're supposed to be buying these guys as good guys. So this is very strange, and Liz can ask about that.
Originally, the wizards tried simulated beings, approximations that could experience life but couldn't suffer from it. But without that element, they didn't act like they would in our world. The data held no predictive power. Each aspect of real beings was needed. Their freedom, their strength, and yes, even their suffering. It was the only way.
So, this I don't understand, even having beaten the main story. They could simulate, they could have like facsimiles, they could have, you know, golems essentially. But it wasn't good enough, it wasn't real free will, it wasn't truly predictive, so they needed real people. But where did they get the real people? Are these consenting people? So I got really confused here when I first played this, and I don't know, maybe you guys did as well. You know, we met Lahir a second ago, the dwarf, and he talked about some peculiar magic. He talked about how he could split his consciousness, and so if a demon came after him and tried to possess him, he would just split his consciousness and run away with the other half, and he'd be fine. So these wizards can split their consciousness, and I was thinking, is that related to this? Are the wizards splitting themselves into other facets to hide in the fractals, so they're consenting to live like this, and then once the information that we're looking for we've gathered, we pull the split consciousness back out or whatever? That way, I mean, is that what they're doing? And I thought that that's what they were ultimately going to explain, but they didn't. I mean, maybe I missed a lore document or something. And then I thought, okay, if they don't explain that, maybe the Wizards Court's bad, and we're going to find out this is this big conspiracy, and, you know, they are kind of not good people, and they've been, you know, using people as fodder for the greater good, you know. Oh, we may have thrown a couple of lives away in this simulation, but look at what we've learned. This saved the whole world. How can you pay that price? It's a very tropey, easy thing to do in a fantasy story, but at least there's something to wrestle with there, philosophically, right? Do you press the button, the trolley problem? But they didn't do any of that. So I don't know what really is going on with this. I guess we just ignore that they had real people in the fractals. And if we're going to ignore that they had real people in the fractals, if it's not a plot point on any level, why write it in the first place? So I'm kind of lost without a paddle here. I don't know. We'll play more, and maybe by the end of this series we'll understand more of this. Okay, so what happens to a fractal once you're done?
The wizards have the ability to, well, for lack of a better term, to pause the experiments. They are then kept in that frozen state in case they are needed later. That way, no additional harm comes to them.
So there's real people in there, and they just freeze it? They just put it in stasis? No harm comes to them, but they're doomed to non-existence, essentially? You see, it's still very weird. And this, I really thought, this is the start of the expansion. I thought the expansion was going to be about this. But it's kind of not, guys. Like, this thing with these islands in the sky here, it really feels like a tack-on to have something interesting going on in one of the maps. And something interesting where we can reuse a bunch of assets, by the way. That's kind of how it actually feels. So all of this, there's big meaty shit going on here, and we're just kind of ignore it, I think, now. I don't know, unless I'm missing something. Am I just incredibly stupid and there was a whole conversation I missed at the start? Or coming up? What will happen to the people in the fractals after this?
We will help
after this
them
disaster?
To survive this ordeal as best we can. But after, ultimately, that will be up to them. As long as we could keep them in their fractals, that was the most humane approach. But that is no longer possible. They're living beings, as real as you or I, and they deserve the right to choose their own paths forward.
See, the consciousness split thing doesn't really work, because you'd think they'd reclaim them at this point. So, again, Liz here is referencing something that we don't really know about. Liz says, what will happen after this? Well, what the fuck is this? The fact that they're in the sky, but what does that mean? So, I'll just let you in, just to clarify a little bit here. They're basically going to explain that something broke, and it thrust all of these islands of reality that should have been simulations contained within something. I'm not quite sure what. They should have been contained, and now they've spilled out into the real world. By the way, not just the real world, not just Tyria, but into other dimensions as well. There's that detail we'll get in a minute. And I don't know, maybe that will inform some of the stuff in map 3. Okay, I'm just going to be very clear here. I think map 3 is the demon realm, Naos. And I think what they're going to do is in Naos, there are going to be chunks of it that are simulations again. Like when we explore this map in a second, we already saw Garenhoff's here. We're going to see a place over here, a place over here. Each one is like a little mini alternate reality that they were studying, that they had created a simulation of and studying, and now it's been thrust into the real world. And I think the map 3 will be the demon realm, but with a bunch more simulations in it, because they do have that little detail there. And again, that means that they can do a bit of reuse for map 3. I'm pretty fucking confident on that, all right? And get ready, in 3 months there'll be more conversations about asset reuse because of that. But I actually, having played this, I was quite happy with all the experiences that they gave me here in terms of reuse. But yeah, okay, so that's it, I think. How do you live with the cost of it all?
The same way that you do, Commander. I've watched your career with admiration, seen the choices you've had to make. You know, as I do, that the right thing to do is rarely clean. There are always consequences, and many of them severe. I've spent a long time on this problem, and this is our best option. Part of leading is accepting the cost of that choice.
So
The truth is, as high as the price is to learn what we've learned, I've never regretted it.
See, I really like this here. This stuff, it's a moral dilemma. And, this expansion is steeped in that. Even just their decision not to interfere in a lot of places. Like, they didn't even help with the Elder Dragons. That's a huge fucking decision to make when you have power and you choose not to use it. But you're using it, but you're believing in this greater good. This is a really, really cool story. The expansion could have been about this. This could have been the big revelation or something. But instead we kind of get it very early here. They do other fun things like this as we go forwards as well. And we get to actually decide what we think. It's a good way to think about it. I don't think it's justified. I don't envy your position, having to decide these things, cop out. I'm going to say that it's a good way to think about it. I think quite often in this kind of media, we're railroaded into option 2 here. It's not justified. You can't ever make this decision. And Guild Wars itself, I think, often railroads us for that. Guild Wars could easily have made people like this with this exact setup the villains if they wanted. And we just take a stand against them. But no, I'll say it's a good way to think about it. It's difficult and you made a hard choice. I think this kind of media is never kind to characters making hard choices like this. They're nearly always villains.
It brings me no joy. But what feels right and what is right aren't always the same. You know that as well as anyone.
I think the thing about the fact that they're real people is crazy. Kyle in chat says, didn't Isgaren bring people into the tower? Is that where people came from for the fractals. I mean, the simulations, maybe, but I got the sense that really they were just recruiting people into the astral ward or into the wizard's court itself. I mean, if that is true, that people are being pulled into the tower to live their lives out in simulations and then frozen, that's fucked up. That's like every bit the vampiric, creepy story that I kind of thought the Wizard's Tower would be about, you know? That's messed up. But it's not even really what the expansion's about. It's very weird, you know? I was going to say something else as well. Oh, yeah. So the thing about them being living people as well, there's another reason why they might have written that story in about them being living people. And it kind of actually concerns me somewhat. And it's that maybe they just wanted this map to have stakes, okay? Because maybe this whole... Maybe playing through this map where I'm fighting and saving these people with a dynamic event at Garenhoff and then wherever else and we're doing things, maybe it feels hollow and empty and not worthy of our attention because they're just simulations anyway. Who cares if they die? Who cares if the town gets blown up? They're not actually sustaining real lives there or whatever, are they? But you tell me that they're real people really struggling. Now I have that, you know, oh, I've got to actually save them. I've got to actually be a hero. Now there's stakes, right? Because there's no stakes otherwise. And it kind of feels to me like that's the only reason they wrote that they're living people. It also, the fact that this feels really discoherent here, it almost feels like they wrote the whole story and then they got some feedback late in the day that it feels like there's no stakes here. So like, oh, do you know what? We can put this NPC here and we can talk about how they're real people and that'll bring the stakes back. And you know, we can make it a moral dilemma and then it will work out. And it kind of feels like they put her in and that's why she feels so disconnected from everything else and we don't quite have the information we need. And that's why it's like, wow, this is a huge story, but we're just not even really going to look at it very much. So that's kind of my theory. It feels like late feedback, and they wanted to put some stakes in this map. But it's a silly idea anyway. Anyone properly scrutinizing this knows that... I mean, what? We're going to save Garenhoff? We're going to rebuild these buildings, are we? So that they can, what? Live on a rock in the sky with no trade, no agriculture, no... I mean, clearly, these are just people that need to be evacuated, you know? And maybe that's where this story will go. Who the hell knows? But they created, like, a whole new type of creature here as well, you know? This is, like, crazy lore here. You know, we're going to deal with... spoiler, but this is the coolest fucking thing ever for Guild Wars 1 players. Droknar's Forge is in this, okay? We're going to go to Drok's Forge. That's one of their simulations from Guild Wars 1. Not the flooded one in Mount Maelstrom. And it's like, okay, so there's dwarves there, but they're real dwarves. They're living dwarves. But are they real? Like, are we going to see... I mean, what are they? Simulation born or something? It's very weird, you know? But hey, okay. That's the dealio with this map. And as far as I know, we're going to get a little bit of voiced audio when we walk out now. That will kind of explain what hopefully we're all well familiar with here, because I've done that. But I'll tell you, playing this on my own, or just, you know, we were in a party, but... And trying to figure out, what the fuck are they talking about? Like, it really threw me through a loop. It felt a bit awkward. Anyway, so thoughts from Warden to Warden. So, remember, we heard over there about this, you know, there are these wardens, probably at the top of the Wizard's Court. And, you know, think about, you know, in the United States, they've got that thing of when a president leaves office in the White House, they write a note to the new one, you know. I get the sense this is a little bit like this. So, Frode. Actually, I guess Frode is a warden then. I could see through that icy shell the moment Lahir brought you before the forge to warm your bones. You may have been in shock, and it may have taken a decade to heal from those wounds, but I knew even then that you were a leader, that you could be our leader. My time as warden has been spent arguing with Isgarin, watching the world writhe every time a dragon wakes. We do good work here, but that work is hard. Remaining focused on the task at hand, to protect Tyria from all the things that we do not know about, is hard. Acting sometimes, and not others, will keep you from sleeping at night. There's nothing easy about this job, but it has been the most fulfilling path I could have chosen for myself. You've always had an aura about you, a fatherly presence that's comforting. They, the ward, feel protected in battle. They listen when you speak, and I I'm tired. I've seen too much. I can barely lift a goblet anymore either, which is why my bond pushes me to retire and heal, but I know it's my time. Do not make this choice immediately. You've only just reunited with your daughter, so few of us get a chance to share this with loved ones from before. Okay, no, I guess the wardens lead the astral ward. That makes sense, right? Ward. So the current leader of the astral ward is Frode, and there was this old one, Levente, who I don't believe we've met, and I don't believe I've ever met in the expansion, but I'm very excited about the fact that we get this detail about the previous leader. Will she or he become relevant in the story coming up? I don't know. But I like this idea that, again, you know, it's very difficult what these people are doing. Abstinence from, you know, these unbelievable events. And the idea that someone would argue constantly about it is good. So Levente, I'm very captivated by all the characters that are off screen, because you know ArenaNet had a job to do here, and I think they did it very well, where if you're going to introduce the astral wards so late in the day and you're going to say they've been here for tens of thousands of years, 10k at least, they got to have some fucking history, man. And if they don't do that, if they don't build that up, that wellspring of previous information, it's going to feel tacky, it's going to feel fake. And they do a lot of this kind of stuff, you know, like with Levent here, which really brings me into it. So I think they did a good job, and it was an important one. Okay, so there you go. That's this room, and now I hope we get some voice dialogue. Haven't screwed us out of it. Yeah, they're inside, I see. We're finally going to climb up the Beacon of Hope here now. They do make this clarification of these fractals versus wizard mess with versus natural fractals. Do they? Do they clarify more? I mean, I kind of hate that the word fractal is even being used. I get it as like a comparative term, but I wish they'd really dug into the simulation thing more than anything else, because if you're not looking very closely at the way things are worded here, I think people will come away from this expansion just believing these were fractals.
One of our sky skill trainers if you're having troubles getting on.
Okay.
Doing the best you can.
So we have some events here. We've got to collect ingredients for Briella. Prepare motivations for Rift Hunters. Well, that's over. There's a lot I want to explore here. First, the Beacon of Aegis. Look at this. This is the Guild Wars 1 Wizard's Tower. It's so much bigger and better than it was before. And you know what I always like about Guild Wars 2? When they do a Guild Wars 1 thing and bring it back, I like to be able to go indoors. Guild Wars 1 didn't have interiors. So I get an incredible amount of satisfaction just climbing this staircase. I'm not joking. I know it seems like so fucking stupid and it shouldn't matter. But really... Oh, and I know they've put basically nothing here, but look, you can climb up.
Surprised to see those fellas up here? Us too. Got Kraut to thank for that one. Tried to keep the sky-scale fiasco under wraps, but the Dragonfall infestation was far too advanced. Never mind that, though. Given what we're dealing with here, they're critical for navigation. Try climbing that mess.
So, this map is fragments of simulations have suddenly popped into our reality. Dragonfall, I mentioned in part 1, is very similar, right? It's fragments of the mists have popped into our reality. Very, very, very similar. I actually wish there was even more dialogue comparing the current thing to Dragonfall. Because, I mean, they're very, very close.
Use that sky scale of yours and let's get going.
But yeah, we get to actually climb, and you know, the old Wizard's Tower, you had these like bridgeways, and we can actually go on them now and do things, and we get a little bit of dialogue from that guy, I guess. I never actually explored this room ever before. Let's go here. And look, it looks good. There's these arcane chests. So you need a mastery for these. I've not opened many of these because I only really just got the mastery. I have a lot of mastery progression to do. I've probably given you guys an impression here that I've seen it all and done it all. I really haven't. I've got a lot left to do with the expansion. And those who are excited for something, hoping for something more blind, I hope there will still be a lot of that and a lot of things for me to be sort of discovering as we go. So yeah, this event is take the nearby materials, and then we need to repair some barriers. This is actually a Galrath event. When I first got here 2 days ago, obviously the last story step, episode 1, ended up here. And he immediately, I spoke to him and then he procced an event straight away. So he says, you've clearly got time to spare. We need someone to take these parts up and repair the beacon's magical barrier. Get to work. And we could say this seems like it's more your job than mine. No, my job is to manage the security of this damn place. And that means getting others to repair the damn exterior. Now, are you going to get to work? Fine, I'll see what I can do. Okay, so, and then we can do the event. this guy, you know, the fact that we kill him near the Wizard's Tower in the first game and now suddenly he's undead, really exciting. Now, yesterday, as I said, I beat the story. I did learn more about him. I got to ask him if he's an awakened. I got to do a few things. So, yeah, we'll do more as time goes forward. So let's, grab a barrier thing. And what I do is you need to find the barrier with the matching icon. And what this event is really doing is teaching new players how the sky scale works, how you can fly into these orbs to recharge your flight juice, how you can cling to walls, you know, that sort of stuff. I really feel like sky scale no Bond of Vigor must just feel awful here, though. And it's really good, you know? It's like what I wanted was to be able to explore this thing, and there's an event where I get to fly all around it and, you know, as good as you can hope for, I think. Actually interact.
You're not done yet. Get back down here and get some more.
So yeah, unfortunately this event looks like it's scaled massively because there's so many players here and none of them are really doing anything. By the way, I'm totally welcome to play with you guys when we're in the open world. I mean, this is all co-op now. If anyone watching this live at the moment wants to play with me, I'm currently on EU. If you want to play with me, you can. I've just joined a squad. You can just type /squad join list. I don't know what benefits they'll really come from that, but, you know, you'll get experience, you'll get mastery points and stuff. I'm totally happy to do it together. And, of course, when we get to the later stages of this series and we're doing the achievement stuff, we're doing strike missions, things like that, you know, I'm well up for all the co-op stuff. We're at the start of a nice long adventure here. Oh, I need to get another one, of course. So there is as well another little bit of the tower we haven't explored yet, and that's the upper bridge, the really, really high up one, which is much trickier to fly to. So we're going to land on these little platforms as best we can. Man, I love how it's... There's kind of a... You know that Futurama quote, when you've done something well, no one will notice you've ever done anything at all? That really applies to this model. If you guys actually go back and look at the Guild Wars 1 model, it is so fucking basic. It is so... You know, there's almost nothing to it. And someone in the recent months actually had to... It was their job. Someone got paid to look at that model and make a new one. And that just makes me so happy. And they've done it incredibly well. And they've done it in a way where, you know, like... People have nostalgia and they forget how shitty things used to look. So it feels exactly like it hasn't changed at all. But the truth is, this is way more detailed and complex than the previous one. And they won't be thanked for that, you know. It'll be, they did a good job and people will just forget. So yeah, look, and there's little sky scale roosts and stuff up here now. It's very cozy here. I would criticize and say, oh, I wish there was a lore document to interact with, but this has enough lore documents. There are a great many. The sky scale baby looks longingly at the sky. One day you'll fly, little one. There you go, and we do get an interactable. There's also a mastery point if you get on top of it. Oh, and there's even more barrier scraps. That's cool. I never came this high with the event last time.
You're not done yet. Get back down here and get some more.
It's funny the dialogue is get back down here when there's actually one just like right up here. This reminded you of the Sky Islands and Tis the Kingdom. I mean, I suppose the timing is that could have lined up. They could have been inspired by.
Are you ready for another try, old friend?
Until I'm rejoined, I don't really think I'm going to be able to control the forge well enough.
I'm afraid we're running out of both time and options. We have to try.
You always manage to talk me into these things. Fine. Come to the forge and we'll lay out the plan.
Okay, so unfortunately the meta...
We could use your help as well, Commander.
This is awkward and Guild Wars still hasn't found its feet with it. The meta is triggering right now. I could go and do it, but the storyline actually leads us to the meta, which is something I think is amazing. I'm very happy with. Oh my god, guys! The second meta is fucking insane. The second meta is crazy in this expansion. It is so good. I can't wait to get there. Anyway, the story leads you to the first meta, but not the second. Listen, if you guys played the story but didn't do Meta 2 yet, you have to do it. Holy shit. The Meta 2 is ridiculous. Listen, I'm saying this to you after the end of Dragons, you know, Dragon's End meta and stuff. They've done some impressive metas, okay, right? I've played Tyria. I've played the Dragon's End. Well, what are some other really impressive ones? This is like, it competes with the big boys, I'm telling you. Okay, so anyway, there you go. And then we got this ingredients thing. This is actually what I did the first time I played this, so I guess this might be fun. What else is there to explore here, though? I don't want to miss too much. We'll loop back to this area quite often.
Welcome to the command center.
That's the command center. There's an infirmary on the top level, command center there, and on the bottom level... Is there anything? I don't know. Also, over here, seriously, we have to fly there, and if you actually stop and think, okay, I'll use my sky scale to go there, you know, you're not even going to get close, right? So there is a bit of that linear exploration. Oh, well, look, there's a rift here. So usually what happens is you hit the heart of the obscure, and it will point you to a place on the map, which is usually really far away. And then when you get there, it procs this. There'll be some cryptids for you to fight. We can get Weapon Master training as well now, by the way. Let's turn the chat box off.
A swirling gust.
And then once you kill them, there'll be a rift and a boss will come out of it.
But you don't know it yet.
So they're just pretty much bog standard dynamic events as far as I'm concerned. Oh wow, we have lightning flash on.
Rift.
Terrifying, isn't it? You'll need to stabilize it before you can seal it. Get closer and channel the heart.
There's the rift.
The Cryptis will attempt to break your focus on the spell and stop you. Be prepared to defend yourself. Focus on your desire to protect Tyria.
See, what they just said in dialogue is not actually how these work. It's phase. They're separate phase. You don't get attacked while holding F on the rift or whatever.
Accelerating.
But yeah, so and then we get these guys. You know, as great as a lot of these models are in the open world, we're never really going to get a good look at them. It's just going to be a crazy light show of insanity. And believe me, I've actually culled a lot of these effects off here. But there you go. And then once the rift's weakened, you just press F and close it. You see, that's called Tier 1. There are Tier 2 ones as well, which are much harder.
Good. The Cryptis are relentless. There are doubtless many other rifts to seal. You've got your work cut out for you. If you have questions or need guidance on any of this, come and find me. We're in this together.
So, Rian's somewhere. I actually never took him up on that offer before. Why there's an abandoned nest here, I don't know. Oh, I guess I can press F on it. So there's no hearts in this expansion. How does everyone feel about that? Hey, I got a donation. Thank you, Eduardo. Hey, WP tuned in. But peace out, because no spoilers for you. You think you're in Chapter 3? That's where we are. Also, you still need to see my Part 1 gameplay. P.S. You're sad about Golomancer runes. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about the rune update, for sure. But thank you, man. That's good. I really appreciate that.
I can't believe the fractals could manifest interior like this. I guess I never considered the possibility.
I wonder if even the wizards knew it was possible. Will they keep running experiments after such a big disaster?
I think so. The only reason we've prepared at all for this scenario is because we tested it ahead of time.
That's true. I guess it's easy to just focus on the downside in moments like this.
Didn't they just contradict themselves? They didn't even know it was possible, but we're okay because we prepared for this. Didn't they just contradict themselves? Oh, this guy looks cool. Dude, I like the getup.
Over here.
I'm a sucker for black and gold. I'm not sure about the eyes, but damn, man. I get that the eyes are synchronized. I love that cape as well. Oh, even the weapons are synced up. And the boots. That's a very good look. That's like how I would make a male Mesmer look at this point, I think. Oh, man. Obsidian armor. Oh, please be good. I appreciate that's entirely a matter of taste. And there's absolutely... Oh, yeah, there is a bottom floor. Okay, good, yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, we got some good stuff in here. Okay, these will talk about the fractals simulations that we're about to come across. There's also this protector here. Oh, there are research kits in this expansion. That currency is still being used, which I think's fine. Actually, getting a bunch of the achievements at the end of Dragons, I realized there's a lot of syncs for these. I spent most of End of Dragons kind of ignoring it, but oh my god, there's a lot. I used to have a character on my account just full of ascended items. I mean like 32 slot bags stacked up, and it was full of ascended items in there. And I've salvaged at least half of them now, maybe even more, just to get the notes, just to get a bunch of the stuff that was in End of Dragons. And I think it's a good way of ArenaNet actually managing to kill a bunch of those floating Ascended since the Legendary update came in. Okay, so there's little notes here about the different simulations that they had. So this one here, Garenhoff, we obviously know is on the horizon here, so let's read this. The situation in the Garenhoff fractal progressed rapidly. Within a few minutes of the tower's destruction, the elementals in the town had become completely unbound and began attacking the citizens. Within a few hours, the released magic coalesced into a powerful storm that hovers over the area. Fear has spread rapidly through the populace as well, adding a possible vector for incursions. Conclusion, as suspected, the loss of the tower has immediate catastrophic local effects, in addition to the obvious long-term risk for Tyria as a whole. Protection of the tower should remain a critical priority. We recommend running other experiments on other potential scenarios related to the tower's safety to help build a robust set of contingencies for all possible threats. So, what's happening here is they were nervous about the Garenhoff situation, so they ran some simulations to see what would happen if the tower went away. And it created these storms and these fucked up elementals. Now, in the real world, in the current actual physical timeline, the tower's gone. But Garenhoff's fine. The golems aren't rebelling. There aren't storms everywhere. Why is that? Well, I guess because of what they learned from this fractal, and they implemented things that meant it was fine, I guess. So this is an example of the simulations working correctly. They simulate a thing, find a problem, and they prevent it happening in the real world. So this is a little example of how they have saved a disaster they would have caused for themselves, for what it's worth. Unless, you know, Isgaren didn't make all these giant wizards' towers and they're really that old. But, I guess there's another chance that actually they haven't figured it out and real-world Garenhoff is going to get fucked up in a minute. But I don't know, this is quite buried to figure out, and I doubt ArenaNet will make that a big part of the story. But yeah, so that's Garenhoff, and what that means is when we go to the island Garenhoff, not only is it just there in the sky, it's got its own issues as well with the storms and so on. And actually, guys, I've barely explored it in the expansion. We're going to go there in a minute, and I'll essentially be blind there. I haven't done any events there. I've done very little on this map. I've never got map comp on it. I've, like, toured it, you know? But I haven't really done anything else. So we'll do the redacted one later. That sounds exciting, doesn't it? So Droknar's Light. Mabon has given his approval to the fractal's development to this point. After many failed attempts, we seem to have found the moment and place in time we need. The forge there will work for his contingency plan, which he hopes will never be needed. Conclusion, the fractal will be paused and stored. Research will be sealed and archived, accessible only to Mabon and Isgaren. So I already gave you the little spoiler. Droknar's Light, okay, they have built a simulation of Drok's Forge from Guild Wars 1. Okay, so just to explain this for people. I hope this isn't tedious, guys, but, you know, I don't want people to miss out. This is very cool. Okay, so you guys know Lion's Arch in Guild Wars 2. It's a big hub city, right? Everyone goes there. Yes, we've had expansions, but, you know, it's like the big place. Guild Wars 1 had Lion's Arch as well, right? But Lion's Arch was like in the middle of the adventure. When you hit max level, and where you first crafted max level armor was a different city, not Lion's Arch. It was in the southern Shiver Peaks. It was around here. It was called Droknar's Forge. And so Drok's Forge was kind of like Guild Wars 1's Lion's Arch. It was a big city where people would meet up. You know, you do your crafting and so on. As time moved forwards, and then factions came out, and Nightfall came out, and other cities got added, slowly Lion's Arch sort of became the thing again, or the places in the other maps like Kamadan. Kamadan became the big one as well. But for the very launch of Guild Wars 1, and for a good few years, Drok's Forge was like the big place, okay? Huge city of the dwarves. In lore, it technically wasn't the capital. The capital was slightly over at Thunderhead, where we could visit here, you know, in Season 4. We got to go to Thunderhead. So technically this was the capital. You had the city and then the fort. But, you know, in terms of gameplay, Drok's Forge was the thing.
This plan is finally working.
I'm going to mute the dialogue while the meta's going on. So, naturally, when Guild Wars 2 came out, everyone was excited to go back to places that... and see what they were like after 250 years. So Lion's Arch, it was like, what's going on with Lion's Arch? Well, it's sunken under the water, remember? This is old Lion's Arch here, ruins, all under the water. And loads of things have changed. Some places were eerily similar, a lot of them have changed. For Drok's Forge, which is a huge, iconic place, that's what I'm trying to explain to you, Well, this whole region, there's volcanic activity because of Primordus, probably. Mount Maelstrom's erupting, things are melting. It's underwater, so you've probably been here a bunch of times in Mount Maelstrom and never thought anything about it. But this place, Sunken Droknar, and this hero challenge, and this thing here called the Forge Foundations, this is a sunken dwarven city. And when you do this hero challenge, there's like a bunch of kelp there and there's ruins. And it's like, in fact, fuck it. Do you know what? I can just go there. I'm going to show you guys. We're going to live the experience. So, back in 2012, you know, the Guild Wars 1 nerds were like, oh, what's going on with Jock's Forge? And if you lined it up, because everything does line up very, very well, you would come along, and this is it, Sunken Droknar. And you see there's Dwarven ruins here. And there's this thing here called Droknar's Relic, which I'm not going to be able to get the information. Oh, these coral-caked fortresses and ruined ships of Sunken Droknar's Forge, Dwarven stronghold and waypoint for the greatest heroes of Tyria, are haunted by the glory of past ages. See, as a Guild Wars 1 player, you read that and you smile to yourself and you think, oh, I see what they're referencing there. Someone who doesn't have that information just sees that as generic dialogue, but that's what it's referencing. This is it here. And you can see, like, you know, they're ruins. But this is it, and to be honest with you guys, I was always a bit disappointed in this area. I always kind of thought, you know, it's sunken, but who gives a fuck, right? Like, a lot of places have been sunken, and I've seen it be sunken already. Another huge, iconic place was the Temple of the Ages, here in Kryta, which was an entrance to the Mists and where a lot of endgame stuff. This is like the Guild Wars 1 aerodrome, just to be clear. The Guild Wars 1 aerodrome. You got all different statues of the gods here, and this place was sunken as well. So, you know, I'd had this experience in Queensdale, and then however many hours later, I'm level 70 or whatever, I get here and it looks, you know, it's just underwater again. And I was a bit disappointed by it, to be honest. The Temple of the Ages is really interesting as well. It's interesting to me we have the Temple of the Ages and there's also a wizard's tower called the Beacon of Ages. And this lore was always crazy because it said time itself originated here, and I've always thought that was horrible lore because that's just such a fucking massive, insane thing to just say and throw away. And they've never done anything with that. But whatever, I'm off topic here. But yeah, okay, so, Drock's Forge, we never really got to see it in Guild Wars 2 because it's underwater. But now in this expansion we do, because these guys have made a simulation of it. And so, why is it called Droknar's Forge, you know? I'm guessing the Guild Wars 1 reason for it was because this is where you would forge your level 8, your max level armor, AL80, AL60, whatever. And that's probably the real reason. But then when it came to justifying it in lore, I don't think they ever said anything that substantive. They probably just said it was great weapons and armor were crafted there. You never actually went to a forge. What I'm trying to say is this was like a town, okay? It was just it was out on a mountainside in the snow. I mean, there's something striking about a mountain now being underwater, don't get me wrong. It was out in the mountains, in the snow, but there was no, like, forge. Maybe there was something that vaguely looked like it, but it wasn't... The forge element of it wasn't really emphasized that much. However, now in Secrets of the Obscure, they are doing that. They're suggesting that the forge here was something really powerful and really amazing and really potent. And actually, when we look at Season 4, when we had the forge for crafting the Dragon's Blood weapons in the fight against Kralkatorrik, I kind of get the feeling, you know, this forge here, that what ArenaNet really wanted was to do Drock's Forge, but they couldn't because it was already in Mount Maelstrom or something. I don't know. But so, and obviously it's not the first time we've heard of a great forge of the dwarves. So let's reread this here. Mabon has given the approval to a fractal's development. After many failed attempts, we seem to have found the exact moment in place and time of Tyria's history that they need when Droknar's Forge was working beautifully. The forge will work for his contingency plan, which he hopes will never be needed. So, Mabon, this is the Massar, and I wish we could just go and talk to him and ask him. He believes something with some project might go wrong, and they need a contingency. They need to get a way out. And so, he's got this forge. And all of this is what the meta is about, guys. The meta on this map, if you look on the top right here, it says Lahir has forged a key. It actually said a second ago he's forging a key at Droknar's Forge. So what is that contingency plan? What is going on? Well, we will learn about that in the meta. But yeah, so there you go. And I guess we just got lucky that this thing that was Pausen's sword appeared in this reality. Okay, so that's that. What else have we got? We have a Crichton fractal research. The situation in the Crichton fractal has developed in an unanticipated direction. While the emergence of Thackeray as the nation's leader after the deaths of the royal family was unsurprising, the deterioration of Crichton society was unexpected. His attempts to prevent more incidents has led to increasingly draconian measures, scaling back centuries of freedom in the country. Conclusion: the experiment has reinforced the unpredictability of the nations of Tyria and the corruptible nature of even the noblest people involved. We recommend additional study, but we advise against any astral ward involvement in Tyrian politics for the foreseeable future. So here's a justification for why they didn't fuck with stuff, you know, during, say, the Civil War with the White Mantle and whatever. So this is not in the map, and here I get the sense that the writers are having a lot of fun, and I had so much fun reading these. You know, I've been speculating about lore in this game for however many years. Any theory you can think of, someone said it, I've said it, it's been on a forum, it's been on Reddit or something, and you guys rewind the clock, especially around Season 1 with like the Jubilee and stuff. Do you know what a bunch of us wanted, especially coming out of the Edge of Destiny novel? We wanted Jenna to die. There was a lot of talk about the death of Jenna. Remember? Like, oh, she might die at the Jubilee. She might get assassinated while that lead. The community was entertaining that a lot. I think it's always been a very fun thought for a place to take the story. And, you know, the plot never went there. And I kind of always had the vague suspicion that the studio didn't like it at all. Because they like Jenna or something. I don't know. It was too mean. It was... I don't know. Who can speculate, right? But something, they obviously never went with the story, and the kind of like dark or, you know, murderous rampage kind of plots like that they never really lent into, or things that would shake up the status quo too much they never lent into, just as how, say, the ghosts of Ascalon are still wandering around. And, you know, that's partly because of questions of how these things get implemented and mechanics and so on. But anyway, that was a fun thing for years and years and years. And when I read this, it's like the writers are saying, hey, we thought this was a cool idea too. We entertained the idea of, okay, so what happens if Jenna dies? Maybe we do a story where Logan is now the leader, and maybe we do a Dark Knight story with Logan where he becomes fucked up and he's, you know, the cruel leader of this place. And it's kind of like the writers are saying, do you know what? Yeah, that's a cool setting. That's a fun thought. And they give us a little glimpse of it here, you know. There's a simulation, there's a world out there where that happens. And I love the thought of that. Isn't that a fucking cool story? Maybe pretty tropey or whatever. But yeah, so I liked this. This actually is not, as far as I know, one of the little islands that is here. But, okay, remember, this is cool, guys. Think about this. Remember what it said a second... Oh, no. Remember what I told you a second ago? That we're going to learn that a bunch of these fractals have split into not just this reality, but others. Remember what I said a second ago? That Naos probably will have these islands in it. This might be in Naos, guys. We might find that Map 3 has a fragment of Divinity's Reach filled with demons and the cruel Dark Knight Lord Logan sitting in his throne, right? They might do that in the next map. So, I mean, this is cool, right? They might. And I don't know how deep they'll go with it. But there you go. That's the Crichton fractal. We got one as Kaineng. This is very, like, Asuri as well. Because, of course, there was a golem uprising in Ratasum between the two games. So the situation in the Kaineng fractal has deteriorated rapidly. The Jade mechs were designed to keep the city clean and productive. And once they achieved sentience, they quickly optimized for that, determining that organic life was the primary impediment to that goal. When their initial command that organics leave the city was not obeyed, violence became their prompt solution. Their takeover of the city is already nearly complete, and the possibility remains that they will desire to expand their control. Conclusion: this kind of machine intelligence being developed remains a significant concern for Tyria, and it raises the troubling possibility that similar constructs might already exist outside of Tyria. We recommend continuing to study scenarios like this until a better prevention plan is developed. So, you know, this is a fairly common sci-fi trope, right? The machine uprising. I do like that they specifically point out... This is one of the ones we'll see in this map. I do like that they specifically point out the idea that, not on Tyria, but in a place like Naos or some other reality, you know, where the humans where the gods took the humans from, the gods' new garden, any of these other worlds out there, that this might have happened and the uprising has occurred. As a Stellaris fanboy, it of course makes me think about all the stories you can get in that game, where that's exactly what happens, and you know, some races and spacefarers are organics and others are, you know, just hive mind machine intelligences. But you know, this is a very common sci-fi trope, and we will see the city overrun by golems, mechs. We read Garenhoff, we read Jock's Light, we read that. I'm going to leave the redacted one for last. Ilona Fractal Research. Man, I really thought there'd be a couple more comments in the live chat about that cool Demon Logan Evil Divinity's Reach thing. Do you guys not think that's cool? I really think that could be there in Naos. It reminds you of the Steam creatures? Yes, it's a little bit like that as well, yeah. Maybe Scarlet can come back. I think there is something about Scarlet in one of these. I think so. Here's the Ilona Fractal Research. I guess I'll stop spoiling whether these are actually in the expansion or not. The Ilona Fractal has seen a significant deterioration as Balthazar has solidified control and pressed the majority of the population into his service. So this is a world where Balthazar wins, okay? At this stage, it seems unlikely that even the full forces of the Pact could alter the outcome. It's likely that his attention will spread to the rest of Tyria soon. Conclusion, the negative impact of the gods on Tyria cannot be overstated. They are unstable and potentially catastrophic variables that are difficult to account for and impossible to contain. It is our clear recommendation that for Tyria to thrive, they must never be allowed to return here. Okay, this is a very instructive note. There is a serious theme in this expansion of gods bad. Careful of the gods. Watch out for the gods. And I wouldn't be surprised if the cliffhanger at the end of like the third quarterly, you know, when we're finally done, the big ending, I wouldn't be surprised if there's something about the gods there, and maybe X-Pac 2 has a god or multiple gods in it. And it, like I say, it tracks really well. I can totally buy why an organization ran by a seer would be fucked off with the gods. I can buy why an ancient organization that's watched the world sees this like brief couple of 100 years period where these planewalkers arrive on Tyria, crack open a bloodstone, fuck a ton of shit up and leave, that they're like, fuck those guys. And then later with Balthazar appearing, yeah. And so they even have a simulation just to check, and Balthazar would not have been kind had he won. And there's a lot of really cool stuff about this as we play forwards, this simulation of the Balthazar winning one. We've got Maguma. We have allowed a significant amount of time to pass since last observing the progression of the Maguma fractal, and the overgrowth we saw before has continued as predicted. The inhabitants of the jungle have grown in size and ferocity as they've adapted to these new conditions, and a sort of equilibrium among the species has been reached. It seems that even under extreme conditions, life in Tyria survives. Conclusion. While leyline instability still represents a meaningful concern, Tyria remains remarkably resilient. It appears likely that some version of Tyrian life would survive even in our worst projections. However, the experiment is worth continuing in order to study the long tail effects. This one's really curious to me in as much as I don't know what they're driving at. Like, it's a fun thought. It's a cool thing to say, you know, the Maguma's a special place. And it's not just because of Morgemoth, which is kind of what a lot of stuff led to in the lore before. You know, when you deal with the Elder Dragons, so many things, it's like, you know, there was all this cool story about the Maguma and the Druids and stuff, and then it kind of just all got replaced with, oh, there's a sleeping Elder Dragon here or whatever. But, you know, we're beyond that now, and what they're doing is they're saying the Maguma is fucking powerful and cool. And if most of Tyria fucks up and the magical imbalance goes crazy, this has the power to survive. That's a really nice note. And I like that little observation about the world, and I like that we're building beyond the Elder Dragons. But I'm kind of just like, what else is this talking about? Is this in service of something greater down the line? Because with a lot of these, it feels like it is in service of something. But I don't really know with this one. Maybe it's just some fun flavour. I think there's always a little something deeper in there, though. Let's speak to the Archivist, I guess. You look like you're about to head into those fractals. You should take one of my relics. If you want to learn more about them, seek out Archivist Iker in the tower. Oh, I do want to do that. Iker isn't the person we spoke to. Oh, and they're selling the relics Little review, by the way. The fractal relic's really good. It's one of the big Condi relics. It's actually kind of good on hammer in PvP as well. People are sleeping on it. The reason is because in Earth, right, when you put Rocky Loop up, which is instant, it's a bleed straight away, okay? And if they dodge the first one, they'll get hit by it. This bleed is pretty much guaranteed, at least one. And the truth is many more. And then the 2's got bleeds on it as well. But the 5 is immob and 5 bleed. What you really want is the immob to stick. So what you want to do is cover Condi that. If they're immobed, then you can, nail a lot more damage. Fractal is actually kind of good for the cover Condis because essentially, I know this isn't over 6 bleed, it's only 5, but because of these other abilities, especially the Rocky Loop, it means when you ground pound, you will proc the Fractal Relic straight away. It's a free proc of Fractal Relic. And what that does is it gives you the Torment and the Burn. They're likely to already have a bit of burn on them, to be honest, but it gives that little bit of a cover Condi and pressure, If you ran that, say, with a Doom Sigil, if you know you're not in a Condi matchup, that's a lot of sudden Condis that might mean that the immob sticks. And it procs very regularly. Very, very regularly. So, it's quite nice. There's better ones to run, though. The truth is, Antitoxin's OP, Defender's OP, Speeder's OP. But we'll talk about that stuff at another time, I guess. Ratanovus. Ratanovus has made substantial advancements since our last observation. There's been a significant leap forward in the mass automation of their society, and all but the most sophisticated work is now handled by the golems. Additionally, they have not experienced a chuck attack in decades, as their domestication and control of the creatures has been further cemented. So this is a world where Ratanovus learned how to handle the chuck. In our world, obviously, Ratanovus was attacked, and there was all that cool stuff in Heart of Thorns about it. But here, they've found a way through it. Conclusion, the fractal has proven worthwhile already, and there are a number of new technologies they've developed that may be useful for our purposes. Our estimates indicate that the city is likely to continue prospering and developing into the future. Recommended continuing the experiment indefinitely. So this one they kept running, and they're just seeing how an advanced super society works. I like this just because I'm really keen on thriving Asura Underground. And I still believe in a depth expansion for this game. Oh, this is good, guys. Secrets of the Obscure has really reinvigorated me with the game. Like, if we get a depths expansion of this quality with this kind of stuff, it's going to be nice. Is this maybe a candidate for appearing in Naos as well in the next release? Maybe there are some Asura there that are defending themselves from the undead, the demons, because they're just that badass, and that's like the main safe spot. Ratanovus within the. I mean, I can totally picture that, right? You got a map, you got a safe area here as Ratanovus, you got the Hell City of Fallen Divinity's Reach here, and you've got demon territories here and here. Something like that. Faction Provisioner, and I think the Provisioner tokens are going to be for Obsidian Armor, so I'm just buying random stuff every now and then. I don't know what this case of Captured Lightning's for, but it takes 250 static charges, and I don't know where I got those either. There are minis as well. Now, what I usually like to do in these expansions is I like to buy the minis as I go. I'll do the heart, and I'll buy the minis. They didn't do them behind hearts this time. Let's close the meta there. They didn't do hearts, so you just got to seek these guys out. And I don't know, I'm not getting the stuff for it. I don't know, a case of Captured Lightning, is that on the TP? Case of Captured Lightning. No, so I don't know. And that's a part of my enjoyment, so that kind of sucks. But hey, we can preview them. There's the Sky Chak. There are a lot of Chak in this expansion, and I don't remember reading anything about why they're here or what they're up to. I guess they're just drawn to the magic. And there's Frode. And this is a big mini. ArenaNet have learned something here, I think, and that's that to do minis big. Do you know what they've also learned? They've learned to change the colour of one of the titles. The Extra Life is blue. I've been saying for years that they should colour code titles based on rarity. I think it would make a lot of titles a lot more captivating, really good incentive for people to play more of the game. And then they just did blue for the Extra Life, and it's like, I mean, there's a nice, honourable reason for that, but what about good game design? Let's actually get some of this shit in with the other titles, because people would play more, and people would be more enthusiastic about the game. But they've done another alternate coloration, I believe, this expansion. We'll get to that when we get to it. And actually, I don't know exactly how it works, but I think it's very scary if I'm going to try and 100% the game. You think we've had enough Rainbow Punk? Look, there's always 100 reasons not to do anything. I'm not saying it's a clean cut. Not every decision is always perfect. It's not... If the only decisions you ever make are decisions where there's 0 wrong reasons, you'll never make any decisions at all. There's always an up and a down. The point is the greater good, right? And I think it's worth so much to the game to color code tiles that I don't care about slightly different, you know, rainbow appearances. You know, there are options to hide titles and things as well. You know, that's not a good enough reason to counterbalance the benefit to the game. That's what I think. That's what I think anyway. Yeah, and then there's these as well. Storm's Eye stuff. I don't know. Did we unlock one of those with one of the unlockers? Not sure. I really wish they'd tweak these Bloodbound things. Actually, save it for a core Tyria patch. If one ever comes. Okay, so I guess we do the redacted fractal now. Let me just... Okay, and here's a portal to the Wizard's Tower, but it's closed off because we've lost access to the Wizard's Tower. So then there's the redacted one. Redacted. So this is a simulation they made. What was in it? The process has accelerated rapidly in the redacted fractal. Subjects are present but changed. Substantial mutation has been observed. The method of the redacted spread has still not been determined, but it has overtaken all subjects it's come into contact with. More frighteningly, symptoms have appeared in the subjects who were far away and only heard about it, suggesting that even knowing about redacted may be enough for it to take hold. Conclusion: due to the unique nature of redacted, we strongly recommend the fractal be expunged and all records of it be heavily censored. Redacted should be treated as an extreme level threat requiring immediate termination of all exposed if it is ever detected in Tyria. Urgent steps need to be taken to ensure redacted never becomes aware of Tyria at all. Okay, now I don't know really what this is talking about here, but I think I do. You know, there's all this stuff about demons and emotions and like manipulation and all that kind of stuff. I think they made a simulation of Naos or something demonic. You see all this stuff about flesh and goo. Think about the world, the realm we were in. I think they were learning about the demons from that, and they realized that this, like, it was almost contagious, you know? It's like you hear about it and instills the fear and the negative emotion in you, and that just cascades out and it gets worse and worse and worse. Everyone falls under the influence. The fact it's contagious and just receiving information about it, you hear about the fucking thing, and that means that it's taken hold. Like, this is really dodgy stuff. So, I think that much is clear, alright? I think that's pretty non-debatable, really. The question is, did this thing form somewhere in Tyria or one of the other realms? And is that why the rift incursion's happening right now? Did these guys cause this whole problem, basically? Is that well, that's what I'm trying to get at. Did the simulation division make this thing, and now we've got a problem? Because we've been led to believe that what's actually happened is the Elder Dragon cycle has ended. And that's why now did you remember, like, in the press at least, that was kind of the suggestion. The Elder Dragon cycle has ended, and now this disaster's happening because the cycle's different now, so entities from the mists are interested in Tyria. But I don't think that's the story. I think, actually, these guys might have fucked up, and that's what's precipitated this whole thing. It's their bad. That's what I'm guessing, but aside from this one note here, I don't remember anything in the main story that goes anywhere near this. You know, the twist later on. Oh, it turns out it was our fault. We're sorry. You know, there's no cutscene later where that happens. So I don't know. But I think that's probably what they're getting at. At the very least, what this is suggesting is this is how Garen and co at least know about these rifts and stuff. And what was the girl's name? Help me out here, chat. What was the person's name that made the artifact? Waiting Sorrow? Maybe Waiting Sorrow learned and built the artifact from... who knows? But you can see there's a lot of stuff's happened here. So, yeah, just bear that in mind. These guys might have caused this whole issue, and they're concealing that fact from us. Perhaps that comes up later in the expansion in hidden dialogue. Perhaps it comes up later in another patch. All right, there you go. The meta's done. We can bring the audio back. There's a fun event here, which I did last time, so I'm going to do it as well, but it's only got 3 minutes, so we're going to rush. And I've got to find the entrance. This is a monument to the Order, you see, and there's a statue here. There's still so much for us to look at. Okay, so it's one of the chefing events.
Chef in need of eager assistant. Great resume builder. Any takers?
Hell yeah, Breela's Kitchen. This is just like what we saw in POF. I love this. ArenaNet really seem to have looked at previous events, the fun ones, and they've just reused some of the ideas, and it's so good. So yeah, I will get a chef's hat on. And a bunch of us in the squad are doing this. It will scale, guys, so try your best.
Thank you. The Rift Hunters placed quite an order, but this will be a great learning experience for you. I'll shout out which ingredient I need and how to prep it. We'll be done in no time. Here's a tip. A single ritual totem will add a ton of potency to your bait. Let's add one. Dip it in some blood for an extra magical kick.
So here's the cauldron of blood. I'm not going to be able to talk much because she's going to talk a lot.
Let's add a shank of goat meat. Ooh, now I'm making myself hungry.
Oh, where was the meat?
Dip
Over
it
here.
in some blood for an extra magical kick.
It's funny. It's just like with the POF one where sometimes she just says some ingredients so rarely. Or it was also in Grothmar, if you remember.
Goat meat is the perfect ingredient for a hearty meal or an irresistible bait. That'll be fine as it is. Nothing helps the structure quite like a bone. Quickly now. Dip it in some blood for an extra magical kick.
I've had good RNG here, really, in terms of where she's standing and what asked for.
Goat meat is the perfect ingredient for a hearty meal or an irresistible bait. Sprinkle some bloodstone on it first.
Bloodstone's dust here. I do have a comment about the lore of this as well, by the way.
I need an offering bowl. They should all be clean. Add a dash of bloodstone and serve.
I had the biggest smile on my face when I was doing this the first time. I don't know why I get so much joy out of these.
I need a bone. Any type will do.
There's an achievement.
Nothing else needed. Just toss it to me like that.
There's a bunch of achievements.
A single ritual totem will add a ton of potency to your bait. Let's add one.
With the other versions of these events?
Needed. Just toss it to me like that. I need a bone. Any type will do. Nothing else needed.
So
Just toss it to me like that.
I made sure to stay and do as many objectives as I could because
Pass me some of that candle wax. No need to worry about a wick.
Candle wax.
Sprinkle some bloodstone on it first.
See, it's such a rare one. Candle wax. Oh, over here. I don't think she's ever asked me for demonic essence ever. We got 1 minute. We're gonna make it. Good job, guys.
Let's add a shank of goat meat. Ooh, now I'm making myself hungry.
See, it's always goat meat.
That'll be fine as it is. Those ritual totems are certainly colorful, aren't they? Toss me one. I need an offering bowl. They should all be clean. That'll be fine as it is. Great work! Now we just need to get these out to the Rift Hunters.
Oh, what a pleasant
So there's going to be another event now, an escort, and we'll do that with her. But I think this is really interesting, you know. It's all like ritually, but it's like evilly almost, you know. And so when I was first playing this, I really started to think, are these guys going to end up being the bad guys? Because there was like this dubious stuff about people actually being alive in the fractals and them using people's lives wantonly. There's the dubious matter of the fact that they were essentially leaving other people to die against the Elder Dragons and not fighting for themselves. And then there was this where it's like it's all bloodstone dust and black crocus and, you know, it's like... and I guess that's just wizardy, right? But it kind of had that evilly slant to it. But I don't know, having played the whole expansion, I don't really think that stuff leads anywhere. But it was an interesting little moment for me. We will explore more of these places better soon, but let's stay with the escort now and get a little bit out into the map. I can't do... I mean, we've been playing 2 hours, and we actually... This is the extent of our exploration. Are we like 6 hours into the X-Pack now, total? And this is where we've been. Oh, man. Okay, yeah, and she basically says, use your sky scale to get over there, please. You can just jump and climb up, though, along these, if you're not too comfortable. I think it's good that Arena put this here, because, again, I think the sky scale is very hard to control. So here, we're at devastated Garenhoff, but you only just clip it.
Oh, dear. I really wish they'd just leave us alone.
This is the extent of what I've done in Garenhoff, really. I think I walked in there and maybe got a mastery point or something. By the way, the mastery points I collected on my own game time, I will still go to in this series. We will still go to all the areas. Obviously, I don't press F and get them because it's 1 time per account.
1,000 storms.
I'll have the content in there. There's nothing wrong with me just going up. 2 hours per island. Maybe. I mean, I don't know how much lore is on these islands. I mostly know that map 2 is heaped with lore. About genuinely almost any topic you can imagine. There's stuff's been written about. It's just so good. It's incredible. I don't think this map is as deep as that, but it might be.
Here you are, friends. A delivery of fresh baits just for you.
That's great, Briella. Wait, so how does this work? Do I just twist this part?
Wait, don't do that yet, you dimwit.
Oh no, it's all over me. Oh, what a smell.
Oh dear, that's going to be trouble. Look out!
So we baited a Cryptis. It's called Champion the Corrupted. That seems like a bugged name to me, but you know, whatever.
Combine and compound.
Oh, we got a new weapon mastery. Okay, so I think the event chain is done in a second. So what I want to try is Weaver, Hammer Weaver, because it feels very different to play. For PvP, I don't know whether it's that strong. I think playing the water variation of it is probably really good into Condi. The pressure might be a bit low, though. The big problem, though, is you lose a lot of stab. So you do feel it. So I don't really know what applications it has for competitive. For PvE and stuff, it's fun and it's different and it's unique and it's novel, so we'll play it. And then maybe we'll try Hammer Tempest for a bit.
That was definitely
Hammer Core is actually pretty strong as well.
At least we know the baits work, though.
And quite effectively, too. Just make sure next time to not open them until you're ready for a fight.
Yeah, sorry about that, everyone.
And of course, there's a fun little joke in there that dynamic events always loop, so we know, there's always that bit of farce that I think they have fun with sometimes. So yeah, what you do for the weapon training, I mean, it felt very tacked on, very weird, very unceremonious. I would have expected it to be, a mastery or a training wheel, just something, really. But what you do is you get to this part of the story, and you, I think it's on the 2nd floor. I don't remember fully. I think this is once per account. In here, on the 2nd floor, or maybe it's up in the infirmary. Oh, I never really explored here. There's just an NPC you speak to here, and he says, well, there you go, you got it now. And that's it. So if I swap to Weaver, yeah, see, I've got my hammer. I mean, that's it. And in PvP, you don't even have to do that, obviously. They kind of fucked up with a lot of stuff, though, like in the UI, with some of the new systems, like the relic thing as well. You can't spectate people's relics in PvP and things. So it felt like it was just done very quickly. I would have liked a bit of progression with it. I mean, let's be honest. The elite specs aren't just the specs, they're the progression to getting them as well. We've lost so much. I would have wanted at least a little something, give me a little achievement quest thing or something. But no, it's press F on a vendor, so a bit of a disappointment there. What isn't a disappointment is another feature from End of Dragons they've carried on, the spirit things. You do find them on the map. I don't know what the reward is for getting all of them, but yeah, you can get unusual coins and stuff from them. And yeah, I found a few as I've gone along. So there's some nice things about this. There are adventures and there are the spirit things. There's no hearts. That's a positive for some people, I guess. Hearts are probably a good thing to cut just because there is a bit of a split in the community as to whether people really like them or not, People in Spud were pointing this out, by the way. This is actually the map you find in Heart of Thorns that shows ley line hubs. Right when the Heart of Thorns story suddenly railroads towards the end, basically. that's kind of a pretty thing there. Did I? Oh yeah, that was the vow of the warden. So there you go. That's this. Is there anything else for me to show you guys here? Like I say, we will be back. Let's go have a little bit more of a look in Briella's kitchen, because I've never done a very thorough look over there. If I find a single note or something that I've never read before, I'll be very enthused. Like, what the fuck is this? Dining hall? I guess we were in here already. A bunch of people sitting and eating. I actually prefer these big hats than the pre-purchase one. Do you guys know if that's actually available in the X-Pack? I mean, I assume it is. Isn't it just light astral ward armor? Not astral ward, probably. Probably just Wizard's Court. That's the room with all the information about the fractals. So there's nothing in the canteen, I guess. And then over here on this flank.
All right, soldiers. You spent your time here training.
What else have we got? Rift Hunters with no dialogue. The kitchen we were cooking in. A crate that was mysteriously smoking, it looked like. And more of these spirit things. The chests from the spirit things look like the arcane mastery ones, but they're not. Speaking of masteries, we can train one. I have 9 points. Wow. The way I played this was very fast, very rapid, and with a booster on. So I was constantly full of XP, but never with any points. I've got a stockpile now, just because when you beat the story, you get a bunch in the strike missions and stuff. So we can learn ley looms. So we'll find ley looms, and when we press F on them, we can make ley lines out of them. And the ley lines can now be used with flying mounts and gliders. We could already do it with gliders, so that's nice. Before that, I got... So technically in the story a second ago, I think we needed to train this first mastery. So now we can use the Heart of the Obscure to find rifts, which is that thing, you know, that you saw a second ago. When it gives you the whooshing sensation, you're supposed to move over. And when I press the button, it gives me the rift here, you see, as an event. I can go on updrafts. Sorry, no, I can create updrafts by pressing F on certain little machines. I can open treasure chests, and now I can create ley lines. That's it. And then this is big chests, basically, the final one. This isn't very good of a mastery line, but I'll tell you what, I am impressed with the flight training. Look at this, 7 tiers. Masteries are so much better when they add a lot of tiers. If they get more tiers, it's so much better. It's like the World vs. World ranks and abilities, you know? They should add another 2 rungs to these. Think about how many points you could have. I haven't had any progression for ages. Anyway, that's a bit of an aside. Well, there you go. It looks like we're not really missing anything here, guys. A staircase. Oh, no, we can go up. I've never been up here, wherever this is taking us. Ooh, this is new. Baribo's journal. Over the last few years, I wrote her 8... Oh, no, I have read this. I guess I did come here. This is familiar to me. I wrote her 8 letters trying to explain where I was and why I couldn't come home. 8 letters. I think the 7th one was the best, but it doesn't really matter in the end. I just keep thinking about what Isgaren always says, that our gift to Tyria is both protecting them from threats and from the knowledge of how much danger they've been in, how much danger she's been in. I've never sent those letters. I think that's probably for the best. Rift Hunter Baribo. So, a little insight into the struggles of these people keeping everything they're doing a secret. What? It's down here. Oh, this is this garden. Oh, in the original instance we were around here, I think, weren't we? This is nice. There's some book written by Hawthorne. Maybe we can get to that over here. What about down here as well? It's just another platform. Okay, and we easily could have flown in there on a sky scale or whatever as well, couldn't we? Okay, that's Baribo. So what's this event, preparing motivations? I've never done that event, the motivations event. Any of these guys want to speak? Here's a ward mage. They have a haggard look in their eyes. Yeah, and with the thing where it's like, oh, all is not as it seems, are these guys bad? I kept reading this as well. They have a haggard look in their eyes. Which could mean any number of things. Oh, here you can sit with people. They do a lot of cool things in this expansion where you can sit with NPCs or like meditate this thing. That's technically a chair and you can do it in a couple of places. All in good time, everyone. These guys meditating. They got a dartboard there or, you know, an archery target. So we can sit and read at the same time. There is actually an emote for reading while sitting. You can see NPCs doing it. I don't know if that's available anywhere, though. An Unofficial History of the Wizard's Court, Volume 1, by A. Hawthorne, signed 716 AE. So, Guild Wars 1 is 1070. Am I right about that? Oh my god, my basic information is slipping from my mind here. Hold on. Let me go to the wiki real quick and type timeline. I'm pretty sure it's 1070. 1072 or something? Up to 1078? Yeah, okay. So 1070 is Guild Wars 1. Alright. This is... So if we're in 716, we're, 300 years before then. Alright, that gives you a sense. And again, this is filling in all those holes of eras of this game's history where we could have learned more. I actually think the setting is really fascinating around this period of time as well. This is during probably some of the guild wars, the actual lore guild wars. This is where there are multiple factions of dwarves thriving. The Orions are around. Their gods have left, but they're still around tending to Ara. There's a lot happening in the world here. So, and then now we hear about this guy, Hawthorne. Forward, I suppose, who I don't know if that's a character from elsewhere in the game. If you guys do, let me know in the live chat. Isgaren tasked me, and so Isgaren's active. You gotta understand, as a seer, it's the same guy alive and doing things through all these years. He has a very broad perspective, and so it makes it easier for him to cast certain issues aside and not intervene, so when there's troubles in Divinity's Reach, does he really care if he's been around for thousands of years? You can see how he ends up with a different perspective. Forward, I suppose. Isgaren tasked me with writing out a complete history of the Wizard's Court by hand. I'm pretty sure this is torture for asking his age during the reading of my latest scroll translation. Had that smug little grin on his face again. Forever kicking myself over not accepting Waiting Sorrow's invitation to join her at the Bastion of the Celestial. Okay, so we are currently 300 years before Guild Wars 1, and this character who made the artifact, the Heart of the Obscure, Waiting Sorrow, this person who's off screen, who's currently missing but was active until very recently, Waiting Sorrow is alive as well. So what does that mean? That means either Waiting Sorrow can live forever through some kind of magical augmentation, which I mean, can all members of the Astral Ward do that? The Wizard's Court, sorry, do that? I don't know if they can. But anyway, this person also lived really long. Or it's a race that is long-lived. Like the Seers, like the Massart, like potentially the Forgotten, I guess is one of the 3 lines there. So, kicking myself over not accepting Waiting Sorrow's invitation to join her at the Bastion of the Celestial. Okay, let's pause again. Fucking hell, man. This is relentless, isn't it? We have the beacons. The beacon of ages. The beacon of whatever, the other Wizard's Towers, I can't remember. There are beacons. But there are these other buildings we're now hearing about as well. Bastions. What's a bastion? What do they do? Who knows? But bastions are controlled by the Wizard's Court. They are things that Isgaren uses. We have heard of a bastion before, haven't we? We have heard of the Bastion of the Penitent. Now, this is the amazing wing with Deimos in it, and the demons are back in this story, and that demon we saw in the demon realm looked a lot like Deimos before. Clearly the devs are leaning into this lore a lot and expanding on it a lot in a lot of beautiful ways. One thing I will say I was completely wrong about, alright? I always looked at Bastion of the Penitent. Okay, after Bastion of the Penitent came out, people asked the devs on live streams, hey, who's Deimos? What's Deimos? Is it real? What's the story there? And the responses they got from the writers at the time was a fairly wishy-washy, non-committal. Oh, it's whatever you imagine it to be. Maybe it was just in Saul's head. Whatever. It was that kind of answer. A really wanky answer that, frankly, I didn't like very much. But, you got to respect artists and how they want to go with things, so whatever, right? But that was kind of the response they got. So, forevermore, for me, I kind of thought, well, they don't really care. Probably the specifics of Deimos will never really be explored. Because you got to remember as well, this is a time for the studio where they were probably angling to go to a new game at the end of Season 4 and stuff, so...
And I kind of just wrote it off. So then when this expansion's being announced in the press and the teasers and stuff, I was much more inclined to think about Menzies and other stuff than the Bastion of the Penitent. Because to me, the Bastion of the Penitent, as amazing as it was another thing as like closing doors. You know, let's stop talking about Saul, let's kill him off. We'll do it in an amazing way. We will pay off on that story, and they did, okay? I love the story. But it was also kind of like, all right, let's put this aside now, okay? Stop talking about this. That's kind of how it felt. So I was very disinclined to talk about Deimos. I was wrong, okay? This expansion very, very much expands on that stuff. Those wanky responses may have been very sincerely expressed back in the day. But now, I mean, clearly with Secrets of the Obscure, they took Bastion of the Penitent very tangibly. And they've expanded on it in very tangible ways. And the fact that that demon we saw in yesterday's part looked like Deimos, there's a real reason for that. And they will explore that. You may even be wondering right now, is it Deimos himself? And I think that's a perfectly fair thing to ask yourselves. I won't spoil yes or no yet. So, anyway, going back to the wanky nature of Bastion the Penitent. When we went to Bastion the Penitent, you know, it has the name. But this is like a descriptive name. It wasn't necessarily a proper noun. As far as I remember, now maybe I'm wrong, and please tell me, any lorehounds in the live chat, if I'm wrong. I don't think anywhere in there, Glenna never said, oh, this is a location known as the Bastion of the Penitent. There weren't any lore books in there from the prisoners or the people running the prison that was said, we have named this the Bastion of the Penitent. It was more of a name that it seemed to me that was descriptive of just what the commander experienced there. Saul was the penitent, you know? And Saul was sealed away in there and protected in there. And so I didn't look at this as a proper noun. So when I played this expansion and I read this note and it said Bastion of the Celestial, my first thought was not to immediately go, oh, it's a bastion like the Bastion of the Penitent, because I took this as a different kind of name, you know? But I'm wrong on that as well. They are connected, okay? When you read the Bastion of the Celestial, yes, it's a bastion just like the Bastion of the Penitent. And what this has done now, guys, is this is revealed, and we'll find more supporting information as we go forward, don't worry. This was associated with Isgaren. Now, it was a prison when we got to know it. It was being used as a prison by the Massat. But it is older than that, and it is associated with the Wizard's Court. And there are multiple bastions around the world, as it so happens. So, like I say, they have expanded on this tangibly. Not just with the demon stuff, but the location itself. And so, I really recommend, if you guys want a lot out of this expansion, do a little lore replay of Bastion the Penitent, if you can at some point. Go in there, read the notes, read about the political Jotun prisoner. You know, look at what was going on there. Speculate freely and eagerly about Samurog, because all this shit, I seriously think matters. Now, Samurog species, I don't think I've read. Oh no, I think there is a little something about that in this expansion as well. So yeah, this is one of the things I've liked about this. It makes tangible discussion about this feel like it matters, because even down to the goddamn location, it's like, oh, we've expanded on this lore. All right, sorry, that I feel like I'm being way too rambly here. But there you go. So there's a bastion, the Bastion of the Celestial. Where is that? What do they do there? I have no fucking idea. But Waiting Sorrow, 300 years before Guild Wars 1 was there. I've been sitting in the library for hours. Basic records, books of... Remember, just to go back to this guy's meant to write a history of the whole court. I've been sitting in the library for hours. Basic records, books of spells, anything and everything you need to know about the potency of poisonous flora found in the underworld. Things I already know, having served as the leading archivist for 2 decades. Nothing personal about Akeem or Vas. Nothing about Isgaren's time before the court was founded. Even more names of characters we haven't met or know nothing about right now. Akeem and Vas, who are they? You'll notice that there are relics to these characters, by the way. Nothing about Isgaren's time before the court was founded. I suppose that raises the conundrum. I've been a leading archivist on the Bastion for 23 years, and my knowledge is embarrassingly limited compared to his. Isgaren's ramblings about the prior cycle, I guess this means the Elder Dragon cycle, have always given me pause. But more recently, they've drawn my attention to the fact that he's kept that knowledge just out of reach from all but Mabon, maybe Sorrow. How isn't there a history of the court already? So this is great, right? Again, it's that question of like, ArenaNet, you're telling me that there's this long-ass civilized society and we know nothing about them, and you're telling me now that there's Masat in there and there's Seers in there, these ancient races, these guys know so much about Tyria, none of that information's trickled out. You're going to tell me that? Well, yeah, they are, and they're going to say, look, it's because these guys are being secretive. But again, look at this trinity, right? Mabon, we know is a Masat. Isgaren, we know is a Seer, we've heard is a Seer. And Sorrow is at that level. So wouldn't it be fair for Sorrow also to be one of these ancient races? Again, maybe a Forgotten, who knows? Or a Coden. I kind of like Coden. I think it's a very good Coden name. We don't know what their race is. I don't even know if they're a man or a woman yet. So there you go. Interesting stuff. And I think we're done with this area now. I think we've read everything there is to read. All right. There's another hour in this little place. I just know for a fact someone's cynically sitting there thinking he's trying to drag this out as much as possible. I'm not. I mean, it's just if the content's there, I want to talk about it. I want to give it its full diligence, right? I don't want to gloss over things. And there's no reason to gloss over things. If I gloss over things and go through this fast, then what the fuck happens, guys? You know, I lose enthusiasm for making Guild Wars content and you don't see me on the regular again for however many weeks. I mean, fuck that. I don't want to do that. This is good. Let's grasp it with both hands. That's kind of where I'm coming at it from here. So yeah, our current thing is to close rifts. So we're just getting used to the mechanics. So what we want to do is scan. And there's a rift over there. And what happened for me was I was standing here and it was pointing at this island. And I was like, holy shit, how am I ever going to do that? But instead of just running to that, I kind of want to explore Garenhoff a bit here. We got to get an exploration of Garenhoff in part 2. And a lot of this will be new to me because I did not go over any of this with a fine-tooth comb. Violin. They're all cowering. Here's the mayor. Our home, I can see it. Oh, this is the refugee. I can see it all from here. Floating, burning. Why is this happening to us? So these are real people, but they're like copies of the real people. So like there's the mayor that we spoke to in the real mayor. I mean, is that even a fair thing to say? Here's our lace. I can't overstate how valuable your help is here. If there's some information I can provide you, just ask. If the goal was to study the tower's destruction, why focus on Garenhoff? Garenhoff is the epicenter of the damage. Oh, the simulation was showing if the tower blew up, not just if it moved. Garenhoff is the epicenter of the damage, the place where we could study its most immediate effects. There were other fractals to study in the long term, but luckily they didn't manifest here. That's a good bit of news. Why were you in favour of the fractals? I wasn't, no. They have provided a lot, but the cost is just too great. But I continued in my position in the hope that I could prevent their worst successes. I don't think I succeeded. I really like this thing of, like... There's this great, like, debate and this great question of ethics and morality and philosophy where if you take too long of a picture, you stop caring about immediate issues and you kind of fall out of touch. And you guys remember I was ranting and raving about the game Disco Elysium earlier in the year because I did a big playthrough of it. In that game, there's like this political faction called the Moral Intern, and they're like centrists. And it's very easy to side with centrists and be like, well, that's the reasonable approach. But they're like hyper-centrists, and they're this thing, they're this Isgaren thing. It's this analysis of, okay, what if we are really fucking big picture? What if we say, okay, if we follow on this path, in 3,000 years... everyone will be enlightened and we'll have a perfect society. So I'm sorry that your town, your city, or whatever is a shithole right now, but we don't care. It doesn't matter because in X years we will attain what we want. We're taking the big picture here. And it kind of leaves you as almost like a villain. It leaves you as this guy that's sitting back too much and isn't doing enough. And there's something really gross about that. And there's this really interesting story to wrestle with there. And Disco Elysium did it beautifully with the Moral Intern. And you can like pick how much you want to side with them, and you see the lengths to which they go and how much they lose touch. And that's kind of how I feel with Isgaren on this. And it's cool that there's NPCs like this. I've never spoken to her before, by the way. What's the plan for the villagers? We're moving as many as we can to the refugee camp. The storm makes the prospect of them staying in Garenhoff impossible. Beyond that, we don't know. Ah, there you go. Just like I said, they just need to be evacuated. What caused the storm? Well, that's residual energy from the destruction of the wizard's tower in their reality. It's been hovering over the village since then, yet more suffering we've caused them. Sorry, yet more suffering would cause them, a powerful side effect. Yeah, it might be easy to look at the storms and think that's just generic chaos because the fact that these simulations are here now, but it's not. It's something that came from the reality as well.
Work.
Oh gods, I'm afraid of heights. I'm so dizzy. I don't feel so good. Stay calm. The water's here for you. Imagine that this actually happened to you. You know, look out your window right now if you're by one. Imagine just you wake up and suddenly you're thrust into another reality and it turns out you'd been a simulation the whole time, but now you're in the real world, but you're floating in the sky. Despite everything, it's really beautiful up here. I can see Tyria unfurled like a map. It looks so calm and safe. Unfortunately, we can't see that. One thing I would have really liked them to do with this expansion is, do you guys remember in Cantha, they did something very cool with the skybox in this map? I mean, it's cool, but I'm split on it. Basically, when you are on any of these coastlines at Saitung, you look out and you can see the city, right? You can see the buildings and stuff. And it's just this amazing, striking thing, especially because, you know, the exit to the map in the story is here. It's a very cool moment, right? And it's something we hadn't seen they'd done with the engine before. The bit I didn't like about it is it kind of made the world feel small. It made it feel like these two are separated by a river rather than an ocean. But whatever, which is not the sense I got from Guild Wars 1. That was an interesting thing mechanically. It would have been really awesome if in Secrets of the Obscure, where they're giving us 3 new maps, all of them floating in the sky, if they had done the same thing, but instead of looking at the horizon, it's when you look down. It would have been really good if they had something for looking down, but unfortunately it's just water there, and it's really close, and it kind of, if you actually go down there, it sort of ruins the maps a bit. It's like, oh, I'm really close to the floor. Lame. You know, I want to feel like I'm high. Especially on the second map, I want to feel like I'm high. And it would have been good. This was the time, you know, like work out a way to have some kind of effect down there, but they didn't do that. Okay, Trindle, look, as sad as you are, I'm sure you're annoying people with those tears, so let's walk away. There's an NPC later, like at the end, who's just laughing constantly, and you're sitting there in dialogue forever. So there's a cow here. Later in the expansion, there's a displaced cow, like the one that you see in Season 4. Or at the Labyrinthine Cliffs, and I'm wondering if it's a reference, but he has confusion on him as well, but...
There's the power.
Yeah, so our 3s now are... They double.
You run.
So it's kind of awkward. You get 2, and then you get 3, and then you get 4, and you can unleash earlier. Grand finale earlier, sorry. Okay, so there's some event here. What's this? Please, we need help in Garenhoff. The elementals are out of control. I came down here to find help, but the roads are overrun, and I'm not sure I can even make it back. Can you lead the way? Yeah, I think so. Stick close and we'll get help.
Oh, praise the six you came along. I don't know how much longer I could have waited. Everything was fine. And then the tower was destroyed and the elementals attacked. Now the tower's back and we're in the sky. Hopefully we can get back before it's too late.
Oh, you mentioned the cow in Discord? That's great. That was RPing Nasura.
There's the power.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. People, it's not me. You know, the internet has broken me, man. It really has fucked me up because there's so many things I actually don't care about, but I'm like insecure about now because I get swarmed with comments for years and years and years. People don't like the sound of like waypoints, so I like, oh, you can't do a discussion near a waypoint. You got to move away from it.
I can remember.
All kinds of stuff like that, you know.
Horrible creatures. I've never seen anything like them.
Or if I have the visuals, you know, it's too contrasted or too sharpened or whatever. Hey, I got a donation. Thank you, guys. You guys are all being very generous. I hope you're enjoying the playthrough so far. Will says that's kind of real. Stupidly wealthy people have said, why care for 9 billion Earth now when in 1,000 years there are a trillion people across space? I mean, yeah, as a...
How are there so many?
As a kind of a casual thought process, it's definitely a thing. But you know, Disco really takes it to a very fun place by making it a very tangible movement and political faction with power, and it is really cool, and it kind of taps into this thing of like disassociated gods, you know. It's a bit of a
that many here, then the
Watchmen
village.
thing, you know.
Let's just keep moving.
Perhaps a bit tropey. But I don't mind things being a bit cliche or tropey. The execution's all that matters to me. This appears to be one of those dynamic events where really the lore doesn't matter at all. It's just generic.
Don't stand a chance.
Can't stop me.
There's the power.
So I guess if we're a Weaver, we could put on some Weaver utilities. As far as PvE is concerned for this setup, I wonder if you could play a fun Condi variant, just so that you could run Primordial Stance. Meaningfully run Primordial Stance. I mean, I'll do it anyway. We're on Celestial with this, so it's not going to be a terrible choice.
We're completely surrounded. Is Gideon? Oh, Six, please let him be okay.
Lucretia, we thought we lost you.
Where's Gideon? Is he okay?
Accelerating. We're out here looking for help when they surround us.
This is cool. It just occurred to me that these are probably all the same exact NPCs that have been in Garenhoff all this time.
Come on, we have to help them.
And we get to do events and things with them.
My flames burn hotter.
Of course, that has been fighting alongside them once before. Season 1, ages ago. We're dealing with arcane times now. Where there was that Karka attack there, very briefly, right as South Sun was being added. Oh, I gotta be careful. I could have reprocced my thing there and I missed it. So we've got to defend these guys for 3 minutes, it seems. One of the things I have seen that's at Garenhoff that I thought was really fucking cool, I'll show you in a second, is you guys know how there's that hidden Asura lab there, which is used in a personal story instance for the Asura, I think it's Order of Whispers, with the Arcane Eye base. But really nobody knows about it. Like, your average player has no clue that Asura base is there. They have no clue. If they've been watching, YouTube or, they played an Asura, they might have an idea. But to remember that it's there in the open world or whatever, like, it's going to be a very small slice of the community, very dedicated members of the community that will even remember that exists. Well, it's in the simulation as well, and the devs actually went to the effort of adding it in this expansion. You can see it's still there in the right place in the expansion, but of course it's all a fucked up broken sky island now, so it's like all integrated into the rocks and into the mounting side. It's just such a cool detail, and it's a detail that, like, I think a lot of people, they might just fly through it and be like, okay, there's a bit of an Asura lab here, that's weird. But I really love stuff like that when, and this is going to sound selfish, but when they do stuff that are really tiny minority is going to appreciate. And it's not that I'm being selfish, it's not because I'm in that minority, obviously I enjoy that too, but it's just cool to think, that they're providing payoffs for people in that situation. I'll show you in a second. I mentioned it now just to fill the time for the 30 seconds that we're just going to be spamming buttons. Not particularly efficiently or anything here either, by the way. If you want to do big damage on Kata in PvE, there's a very specific order you want to play. You want to go fire, air, water, earth. Spam as many earth autos as you can. Linger just at the right moment to get your energy back. It really doesn't matter for open world. What I probably could do is spam more primordial stances though. And try to do fire and earth. If I can.
My service
I guess we get Vuln, don't we, from air? Oh my god, I made a
Where is he? I don't know. He was with the other kids 1 minute, and the next he had vanished.
Oh no. No, 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 no!
I always feel bad with stuff like this.
Over here!
He could
use that sky scale of yours and let's get going!
Something big is happening. Bigger than Garenhoff. Worse than anything I can remember. And these horrible creatures. I've never seen anything like them.
So here this person's possessed.
I
always feel bad for like events and writing and stuff like this, where it's just filler, but the voice actors have to come in and work their arse off. I guess if you're just the voice actor, you don't necessarily know what really matters anyway. You're just asked to be emotional, so you just do it. So maybe it doesn't really matter, but it's always funny to me. Like, I don't think anyone is here hardcore invested on the verge of tears with an event like this, are they? I mean, you never know though. I've never had any shortage of comments of people saying, oh, X made me cry, Y made me cry, Z made me cry, and moments that just completely go over my head.
Lucretia, you're okay.
Is Gideon?
We'll find him together. You know Gideon. He's probably just hiding under a bed somewhere.
You're right. Thank you.
So I assume we can't take that portal?
How's it looking out there, Commander?
I can see the rift.
Terrifying, isn't it? You'll need to stabilize it
What
before
rift?
you can seal it. Get closer and channel the heart. The Cryptis will attempt to break your focus on the spell and stop you. Be prepared to defend yourself. Focus on your desire to protect Tyria.
Didn't we already read that? So there you go, that's the dock. Oh, apparently there's a champion Earth Elemental. I'll fly. I was going to do a bit of a slow tour here, but if there's an event... This is always the thing with Guild Wars. Events pull you away quick. Oh, it's like a full-on Earth Element. Oh, no. I thought it was going to be like the Hands of Olgoth. Wow, he's huge. That is very cool.
Searing flesh from bow.
Stop me.
Armor and heals.
All weakling.
Well, he died very quick. I like the use of the classic combat music.
Use for this.
So yeah, look, well, it's Garenhoff, and you know this is the field where the Ettins would be. Oh, the meta failed on this map actually. That's really interesting. Reading the meta text there. Look, this house is destroyed, and then the house that had the sneaky entrance to the Arcane Eye base. I don't know. Can we actually walk in there and just see it's all shattered? No, I'm not sure we can. But here, look, I found it anyway. If you go... So it's in these rocks here, behind here. Look. See, it's down here. How cool is that, guys? The prison. And look, we can stand in here. And there's even a POI here, the abandoned lab. And the window now. The window, I guess, wasn't to anything before. That's one of the holographic windows, where on the other side it just looked like rocks. You know, one-way glass. You don't see the effect very much in the game. But now it's just looking out into nothingness. Oh, and they put a greater chest here. I don't have the mastery to open these. Oh, and a scared guy with question mark, question mark, question mark. Huh. I don't think there's any big deep meaning with that. Do you guys? Question mark, question mark, question mark in the Asura lab? I assume it's just a way of saying it's some base worker. And then this should take you up into the room. Yeah, there you go. It does work. Yeah, look, look, you can go in. Can we go upstairs all the way? Oh, and there's people hiding up here now. That's cool. So, I guess, is this it for Garenhoff? I mean, there was someone down at the docks that I could have pressed F on, I think, and we rushed away, didn't we? Oh no, that person's just dead.
Rage? How'd that feel? Excruciating?
That person's dead. It's an updraft there. We can sky scale into it. I had quite a big experience in this expansion of really wanting that updraft because I had a lot of gameplay without it, and it's very difficult to move around. In the second map especially, if you don't have sky scale updrafts, it's rough. Yeah, none of these guys speak. Here is the gate that would have led to the Delesio seaboard. And it's open now. That is cool. Right there, that's the gate to the Delesio seaboard. And we get to go through the gate. In regular Tyria, there is nothing on the other side of this gate. It's the edge of the map. There's, you know, maybe a bit of a path with no details. But now we can go through. So these buildings kind of are giving us a glimpse of Garenhoff that doesn't actually exist. I mean, it does in theory in the lore. So this is like, I quite like this. I've never been here. It's a new part of the town, guys. Wow, look at these extra buildings. Oh, wow, there's quite a lot, actually. Holy shit, there's loads. Oh, that's what all this stuff is. Yeah, this is all new areas of Garenhoff that you don't get to see on Tyria's side. And a nice road.
To teach you.
Whoa, do you think that this is the Delesio seaboard, then, technically? We're kind of in the Delesio seaboard. Oh, give me interactables. There's nothing to interact with. I wonder if you can get all the way up to the Melandru statue. Hold on, that camp isn't the Melandru statue, is it? Oh shit, they probably expand the town. Can we even go? Oh, we can go into this house. Same layout every time. It's okay, guys. Look, that's that's just how they built them. They did a job lot. Don't know whether I really buy that in a like fantasy medieval setting. They'd probably be a bit bespoke and custom made, but hey. And then we're going north a bit here. This is all new parts of the town as well. So this is the thing about this first map. There are some amazing locations, like the Drox Forge stuff I was talking about. But how much there is to talk to people, how many lore notes there are and stuff, I'm not sure. Garenhoff, for example, seems pretty empty. There's a chest here that I'm opening through the stairs, it seems.
Oh, I know of a good use for this.
There's a note on that table, but I can't press F on it. That's the exact model they use for notes that you can interact with quite often. Holy shit, what is that effect? Someone's sky scale landing, I assume. Let's see. This is called the Eastern Ward. So we could use these to fly to that island. It's north of where we were just now. Oh, here's a named guy. I still need a rescue. Oh gods, I hope they don't just forget about me. We won't forget about you, don't worry. It's very weird, isn't it? It's it's got the vibe of a place that's about to have a dynamic event trigger where you run around and press F on all of them. Or, like a personal story instance where you press F and they follow you and you escort them. Like getting one of the bonus objectives at the start of a dragon response mission. That kind of vibe. So this is a POI. This tower here with the ley lines all on it is a POI. It's called the Fractured Tower. It's very weird because I don't really know what this is. This, hold on. So in their mini reality, they were testing what would happen with the Wizard's Tower breaking, right? So is this a fragment of that? This is the Wizard's Tower and it's broken and it's like fallen onto the town somehow? Is that the point? In which case, that's pretty fucked up, and that's a cool little detail. Well, yeah, anyway, mastery point there. I'm trying to land on it. I don't need to. Oh, yes, I've got the Jade Bot thing on this. That's so good. There you go. We already communed with it. So this is back round to normal Garenhoff again now. There's a vista over here. I guess we can look at that. This is not explorable in Kessex, I think. Or maybe it is. It's funny, it cuts off right near where the Tengu Wall would be. Oh, not appropriate Vista music. Oh, yeah, look at that though. We go right into the extra bit of the town. Oh, we had another donation, a super chat. Thank you very much. Loving the stream from Joni B. Thank you very much. Do people think any of the secret organizations, like the Ash Legion, the Mesmer Collective, the Order of Secrets, Arcane Eye, stuff like that, would they have been aware of the wizards? Well, that's the question. I would like it to be revealed that some of them did know a bit more than they let on. But, just because, again, that makes the whole development more believable, more buyable to me. But, it seems like they did a pretty good job keeping secrets so far. As far as I can see, I don't know. You might find there's a note somewhere that explains that people did know. So what's down here? Another mastery point is really low and a POI. Holy shit, we're so low down. Whoa. The ruined rampart. What the fuck is this place? Is this still technically a part of Garenhoff? Sky scale tender. The sky scales are under a lot of stress.
Things have been really chaotic here.
Oh no, I think this is a part.
Are struggling as a result.
I think this is a part of this.
I haven't been tending to them all that long, so I'm a little overwhelmed.
Oh yeah, I did this event.
Take some time. See if you can figure out what's wrong with each of them. And seems to have done the trick.
So you'll notice, like this event here, this is kind of, if you think about the refugee event heart at the start of POF, they ask you to do this, right, for the heart. It feels to me like ArenaNet essentially made the heart, but they've split it into separate events instead. And that's a more economical way of doing it. So I think that's quite smart. If people don't like hearts, you're essentially doing the same fucking thing, guys. But, you know, it's packaged differently, so... And I guess the packaging is it's not a part of map comp, so there's less to do, so people are happy, because paradoxically people want to do less. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, this is totally a heart objective, right? Same as some of the stuff elsewhere up there. Do I have medical supplies? Yes. I don't know if this event chains on to anything. I did do it my first day playing the X-Pack a couple of days ago.
Statistically speaking, this is rather rare.
You did right by them, so you've done right by me. Thanks for all your help.
You get a good sense of how high and low this map is as well with the verticality. I'm really happy to see that they play with that in a in an expansion here, because I feel like we haven't seen much of that since Verdant Brink. But we now have the Griffin and the Sky Scale, so and there's so much more that they can do, you know. Verdant Brink, you could get ludicrously high and you could go ludicrously low, but it wasn't often that the gameplay really emphasized it. This map does that a lot. And also, you know, there's always this thing about, like, the engine limitations for how big a map can be, and we have a clear sense of what that is now since POF, with in terms of up, down, left, right, northwest, southeast. But in terms of height and verticality, they can really push it, and we haven't really seen them explore that to its limits. I guess maybe that's what they're doing here. There are definitely areas on this map where it's like, what the fuck, how do I get there? Like, you look up and it's like, okay, that's a huge island. There are definitely places I've never been as well. Okay, that's the same event. It cycled pretty quick. You know, people used to have a problem with that. I think at this point we're all boiled frogs and it's like, okay, dynamic events loop quickly, whatever. Get over it. If the Melanju statue existed, it would be slightly up here somewhere. I like how I just got that vista there as a complete afterthought. It's funny because that is not the normal experience, I think, for most people. Most people, they're just beelining the fucking map comp stuff. Like I say, when I logged in, there was that spud that was like, oh, I just got map comp. And it was like the hour that the X-Pack came out. There's some kind of a grove here, but I don't see a statue. There is a cave. Now, the main story is going to ask us to go in this cave, if I remember rightly. So I'm going to leave that for now, the fragmented passage. We'll do that later. And all the cool ruins and stuff. My first time exploring, that's where I went. So yeah, there you go. That's Garenhoff. Now we got this island. We can go to the north. We can close our next rift. I'm going to leave it there, though, guys, because I want each episode to be about 3 hours at a push. Even that might already be too much for people to just casually click or whatever. But, you know, you don't need to listen to more than 3 hours of my voice in one day. That's excessive, guys. And I say that fully well knowing, hopefully, that someone's on playlist view right now and they've just done episode 1 and 2 back to back. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to do a massive long outro, just so that when on the playlist it scales to the next episode really quickly. Thank you very much for watching. I know we're going slow, but whatever. Lots to come. We've got Jock's Forge to explore, the desert, and so on. If you're liking the look of it, if you're a lore enthusiast like me, I do think there's a lot here. Please join me on the next time, or there's a link in the description to buy it for yourself. If you click it, it genuinely supports me. It's kind of a way of donating to me without actually having to spend a penny. So thank you very much, guys, for watching. Guild invites are still open. Just send me a mail if you want to join and have people to chat to. Barradin3164, and state your region as well. I forgot to say that last time. Tell me if you're EU or NA, so you can go into the right variant. And yeah, and to the people who played with me as well, thank you, guys. It's been very cool. We'll see the meta next time as well, probably. Cheers, guys. Take it easy now. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Look at the progress we made here, guys. Ready? We went from this waypoint to this waypoint. Pretty good.